086 000 2032. By the way, for the bonding session this afternoon, we want to throw it back at you as our listener. Please come up with a topic that you'd like us to discuss for the bonding session. Any topic, remember, not current affairs related, and it must be lighthearted. If there's a sense of humor to it as well, totally welcome. So don't forget, 5 o'clock, the bonding session. We're taking suggestions from you, and at around 4:45, we'll tell you what topic it is that we're going with.
#SAFMBTH.
It's 17 minutes after 3 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Mike Walwyn, who is the Director for the Maritime Affairs at the South African Association of Freight Forwarders. Earlier on today, Treasury announced that Transnet will receive a bailout to the tune of 47 billion rand to alleviate its debt crisis. The entity has suffered significant operational and financial and governance challenges in recent times and is struggling to fulfill its strategic role. Now that they have received this bailout, will they be able to turn things around? Mike now joining us on the line. Mike, good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Thank you.
How far do you think this guarantee facility, as the Minister has described it, will go to try and alleviate the Transnet's financial woes, considering also on the other hand that they have 135 billion rand in debt?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very I see coming to the university that we said they really exist, and indeed
Okay, Mike, there seems to be a problem with your line. We're going to see if we can quickly dial you back. That is Mike Walwyn, who is the Director for the Maritime Affairs at the South African Association of Freight Forwarders.
Ford is turning 100, and there's never been a better time to buy a brand new Ford. We're giving away 100 vouchers worth an amazing 50,000 Rand each, and the sensational grand prize of us paying for one lucky winner's Ford. It's the celebration of the century. Visit a Ford dealer, buy a new Ford, and win. T&Cs apply.
Manene namanenekazi.
Dove is not just gentle and moisturizing.
It took great care of the nation
During the Rugby World Cup France 2023. Dove rocks, just like the box.
Danko Unilever for your remarkable contribution to the momentous journey of global heroes.
Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
World AIDS Day on SAFM. This World AIDS Day is more than a celebration of the achievements thus far. It is a call to action for society's involvement in all HIV plans and programs and in their formulation and implementation.
SAFM leading the conversation. This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Okay, let's try Mike Walwyn again, the Director of Maritime Affairs at the South African Association of Freight Forwarders. So, Mike, as I was saying, that the 47 billion rand guarantee facility, how far do you think that will go, considering that Transnet currently has a debt of 135 billion, and this 47 billion is far less than what they've actually requested from Treasury?
Yeah, thanks, Aldrin. You put your finger on the big question, but what is good is to see government recognizing the immediate urgency of this thing. This is, as I've said before, a real crisis, and it's a very urgent one. As far as the number is concerned, well, you would have seen in the announcement that about half of it is to settle, I think, what they call immediate requirements. And that, I would imagine, is servicing some debt and possibly some ordinary cash flow requirements of the business. Now, I can't speak to that. Their accountants could tell you that. But that's what it looks like. So what do they need to make the ports work properly? Difficult question to answer. Again, the cost of these capital goods that they need is high. And whether half of 47 billion is enough to get what they need as quickly as they need it is an open question. I have my doubts, to be honest.
Because on the one end, there are the financial problems that Transnet faces, but there's also the governance issue and also skills and whether or not Transnet in its current form is actually fit for purpose.
Yeah, that's exactly our point. We've been saying for some time that in our view, the only solution, longer-term solution to this is public-private partnership. I've stressed before, and I stress again, that I'm not talking about privatization. I'm talking about partnership, and it is successfully done in a number of other jurisdictions, particularly, for example, in Mozambique. There's no reason why it can't work here. And I'm hoping that that is in Transnet's mind, because we're in public enterprise's mind and the government is at large, because I really think it is the only answer. I don't think it's fit for purpose as it is. Obviously, the letting go of 700 odd skilled people didn't help, and some bad and staffing of Transnet is not up to doing what we need doing.
And the new board chairperson of Transnet is also clear that Andile Sangu, actually, that you need the private sector to actually come on board. My issue now is next year we know that there will no longer be a public enterprises ministry. That is, if the ANC still wins the elections, because the announcement has already been made. But there's going to be the holding company for SOEs. And I wonder then, with that holding company for SOEs, if there is that transition that is taking place, if Transnet will be able to fulfill its core mandate?
I mean, I'm not quite sure of the logic behind all this either. There has always been some dichotomy, I guess, between the functions of the two ministries involved in Transnet, because we had the shareholding ministry, public enterprises, and the operational ministry, transport. And both of those now seem to be perhaps out of the picture and reporting into this new structure. I'm not sure how that structure is supposed to be and what kind of expertise there will be in it to make decisions that impact on Transnet. So it's a very difficult question to answer, honestly, Aldrin. I can't tell you exactly how to see that one.
Okay, and the final one, Transnet announcing yesterday that it will add 14 extra trains a week to its main coal export corridor. What do you make of that?
That is a very welcome announcement. It really is. I mean, if they get that right, then perhaps those 30-kilometer queues of unfortunate truck drivers standing there for days will be out of the way. That's what's desperately needed. And as soon as that happens, the coal terminal at Richards Bay can function at full capacity, which it hasn't been able to do for a long time.
And what's the situation currently around the Richards Bay port? Do we still have the long queues?
Yes, we do. This is the first announcement of any description about plans to rectify that. But at the moment, it's not happening, and so trucks are carrying cargo that the railway should be carrying and putting that cargo through terminals which it shouldn't be going through.
Thank you so much for your time. That is Mike Walwyn, who is a Director of the Maritime Affairs at the South African Association of Freight Forwarders.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and your team and the fellow listeners. Again, a bailout for Transnet. A Transnet that cannot simply run an efficient railway service. They just can't. They're incapable of doing it. And I mean, this 47 billion, what are the conditions? Who's going to monitor it? Are people ever going to be held accountable? Because even if Scopa calls them, they don't even show up. I mean, look at Pravin. He's still running the enterprises. Is somebody holding Pravin, accountable for his failures? No, he's still there. He's just still sitting there. I just don't get it. I cannot get it. And as long as Transnet and all these parastatals, SOEs and SOCs, they are run by these comrades and sitting there in Luthuli House, they are never going to be profitable. That money is going to disappear like sugar in hot water. My goodness, really, in this day and age, we just need to get rid of these thugs.
0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032. When we come back, we're in conversation with Dr. Linda de Toit, who is from the Department of Animal Science at the University of Pretoria, as we look at the call that has been made by African nations saying that at the COP28, we must see commitments being made when it comes to livestock systems.
The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM.
0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. In conversation next with Dr. Linda de Toit from the Department of Animal Science at the University of Pretoria. With the United Nations COP28 currently underway in Dubai, African leaders are calling for climate finance to support the adaptation of sustainable livestock systems on the continent. This as they argue that millions of livestock died in Africa last year due to climate change shocks. Joining us now to talk more about the effects of climate change on Africa's livestock, we're joined by Dr. Linda de Toit. Dr. de Toit, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. So we see that there's been a commitment that has now been made by the various nations at COP28, the 420 million rand for the loss and damage fund. Is this the type of fund that the African nations can actually tap into to deal with this issue around sustainable livestock systems?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show. Yes, I think the Global Climate Fund is making these funds available. A lot of African countries lately has included livestock and agriculture through the national NDCs. So these funds are really necessary in terms of finding ways to adapt to a changing climate for African and Southern African farmers. These farmers are, the majority of African farmers are emerging farmers and smallholder farmers without any access to finance through their own farms. A lot of them also do not own the land, so they cannot get access to funding. And these funds are critical for governments to support these farmers and to develop adaptation strategies, and not only focusing on mitigation but adaptation in order to make science-based policy decisions. Yeah. And that's very important.
So with the billions that are then being pledged, and also the issue around some of these farmers not really structured in a way that financial institutions would make money available to them, what criteria then should be used to make sure that they still get the funding? Because after all, it is still about their livelihoods, even though they're not considered to be formal.
Yes, I think that must be foremost in all conversations when Africa is involved is food security. Food security and quality of food being produced and the safety of food being produced is important, and that's where our livestock farmers are paramount and standing right in front of the queue. So in order for them to gain access to these funds, and I know that a lot of institutions and a lot of governments are busy trying to restructure funding mechanisms, is we need to find a way where we can evaluate the farming systems and help them to implement adaptation systems. So if they are farming and they are farming efficiently, and we can prove that they are, with the means that they've got, that they are doing efficiency, they are doing it sustainably, then maybe institutions can come to the table and say, yes, we will support you.
Just a quick final one. Is there anything that could be done in terms of weather predictions, at least to help these farmers with technology that is able to get these farmers to gear up for instance, when we speak about the El Nino and the impact of the El Nino, what it is that some of these informal farmers can do to mitigate the impact of it?
Yeah, again, this is research that's ongoing. Early warning systems was discussed 2 weeks ago in a FAO livestock meeting. Excuse me, I'm just standing next to the road quickly. So it's research that's ongoing, and the early warning is being developed. What farmers can do is if they have the land available, is to produce extra fodder. They do not always have land available. So that's where communities and communities need to come together and indicate where they can support each other, which byproducts from industry they can use. Maybe industry can make byproducts available. We need to focus on adapted breeds that will be more sustainable, that will require less input costs. And we need to get our emerging farmers to a point where they can start not only producing for themselves, but also producing for industry and getting more economically viable. And this can only be done through a conservative effort from animal nutritionists, animal geneticists, the industry itself, the healthcare, and government coming to the party in terms of funds.
Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Linda de Dooy there from the Department of Animal Science at the University of Pretoria. It's time for the news headlines with Mudupi Makhalimela. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Aldrin. A very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, Eskom says extremely hot weather conditions experienced across the country have driven up electricity demand, and this has put increased pressure on the grid. President Cyril Ramaphosa has spent 32 million rand in legal costs since he assumed office in February 2018, and Madagascar's Constitutional Court has declared the incumbent president, Andry Rajoelina, as the winner of last month's elections. Details of these and other stories, 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And let's get a traffic update with Rob Byrne. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's Friday and it's effectively month end and driving into the weekend as well. So demands that we check the N1 out of Joburg through Pretoria. It's quite busy already. Buccleuch through towards Samrand, going north there's some volume. And then you're pretty much back into it after Samrand. By the time you get to Boerta Avenue, all the way through the roadworks up around Rigel Avenue. Bit of pressure at the Pumalani Plaza on your way going north out of Gauteng as well. Big Friday volumes causing major backlogs out of Pietermaritzburg to Durban. Plus a breakdown at Linfield Park. Now that traffic heading to Durban is back from Linfield Park, back through Ashburton and back almost to Market Road. So that's a very heavy queue. Also the N2 South moving through Umhlanga has been busy all day. It still is down towards the Komashu Highway exit. And if you're driving Cape Town, the N1 out of town looking okay through Kuiberg Interchange. Nelson Mandela Boulevard out to Hospital Bend is reasonably busy. And the South Peninsula not too bad. It was pretty chaotic earlier today. Just a little bit of traffic, usual sort of pressures on the main road both ways through Cork Bay. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
What was that sound? Was it a life support machine in an ICU ward? Was it a car reversing for the driver to take another look at a woman he saw at the bar last night? Or was it the birth of a new robot machine about to change the world? This time, you decide. It's your story. The award-winning SAFM playwriting competition is back. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 22nd of January 2024 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Is Zai Khan doing sports for us this? I have to say, I love your surname. I really do.
What are you saying? It's made for what?
I don't know. Zai Khan.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, when we were kids and we used to play those, I don't know what they call these games. Street Fighter and what? No, not TV games. When Street Fighter.
You're thinking Genghis Khan and
Yes. So I see like a Zai Khan.
I love it. My Street Fighter name.
Yeah, exactly. And you got some street fighting breaking news on the cricket pitch.
What do you know? Yeah, breaking news indeed, Aldrin. Dan Pitt, his 6-wicket haul helping South Africa A complete a comprehensive 232-run win over the West Indies A team. And this was the second 4-day match at Buffalo Park in East London. Now, the right-arm spinner claimed 6 for 79 to complete a match haul of 11 for 107 to ensure that the South African A team, who are the hosts, level the series 1-1. The third and decisive match between the sides will take place in Bloemfontein come next week. Let's go to soccer now. With only a month to the next Premier Soccer League transfer window, Kaizer Chiefs interim head coach Kevin Johnson is not giving out much on what kind of jersey they're looking at mid-season buys. This could also be informed by the fact that he's not a permanent coach at the club, as his original position is the head of development and youth academy. Now, despite his optimism, their striker, Gonzalez Goldraut, raises questions about the club's recruitment strategy.
I think the Colombians, and having worked with a Colombian before, in Renteria, you remember Renteria? They're very, very stubborn people, but they also love football. And I've been trying to understand what Gonzalez is all about, because that's how I got the best out of Renteria. And I think if we give him a little more opportunity, and I'm able to train with him a little bit more, he'll get used to what Kaizer Chiefs brand is all about. Because South Americans don't worry how big the brand is, as long as they're able to play in front of people. And when they do that, then they shine a little bit better. And yes, as a striker, I think Gonzalez has got something in his feet, and he's going to surprise us a lot more when he starts understanding who we are as Africans. And then you'll probably see a little bit better out of him. He's got very, very good feet. He's got very, very good head body on him, and he's physically getting better all the time.
There you have it. That's the Kaizer Chiefs interim head coach Kevin Johnson here on Beyond the Headlines. Let's go to Pitso Mosimane now. He's, one of the greatest coach on the African continent with only one victory in 5 games. The former Bafana Bafana coach left the United Arab Emirates club Al Wahda on the 10th of November. Now, he's the only coach in African history with 5 DStv Premiership titles with Sundowns, as well as 3 CAF Champions League trophies with the same Mzansi Giants and 2 with Egypt's Al Ahly. And he said, naming his best team on X, saying the best moments and memories with Al Ahly SC, we were like the Vikings and raided Africa, South America, and really punished Asia, only to be stopped by Europe. And finally, rugby. Nizam Kar may be on the wrong side of 30, but the Bulls' loose forward is certain he can still add value to the South African rugby tournaments. Kar is on his second stint with the Shwani-based outfit after his English Premiership club Wasps went bankrupt. He says returning to South Africa has reignited his competitive drive, and he wishes to regularly pit himself against the best.
Since high school, it's always sort of having to prove myself, and I guess it's like that for every other player. He wants to show that even at this age that he still belongs, or belongs there at that level. And a number of times, especially with my family, they say, hey, you're getting old, you're getting bald and things like that. But I always want to prove that I'm capable of being at this level, outshining guys that I'm up against who's current Springbok. If that sort of dies in you, then that's the day you should probably retire.
We'll have more sport on Beyond the Headlines with Sports Headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Some people who could not pronounce Kandla, they've now learned Nkandla, Nkandla, Nkandla. Hey, hey, hey.
Aldrin, it's Elon Musk, not Musk.
Sorry, John, it's Elon who?
Musk.
It's not Elon who?
Musk. Have you been saying it?
It's not Elon Musk. It's Elon Musk.
Musk, yes.
Hey, hey.
Say this right here. Fish. No.
Fish. Yes.
Fish.
Yes,
Say it
yes,
real
yes.
quick, short.
Fish.
Listen to me, Oscar. It's
Fish.
Fish. Tig, sausage, George Cook. Hey, hey, hey.
At the end of the day, there is such a thing as a black accent. We seem to have forgotten that, Because there's French accents, there's Indian accents, there's Chinese accents, and then there should be a black accent,
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Bye-bye, Zai. It's Zai Khan. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032. Actually, by the way, I wanted to say arcade games. Yeah? Arcade games. The thing is about saying arcade games is that growing up in the township, we didn't call it arcade games. That's probably the reason why I was struggling to remember what we are talking about here. It is the arcade games. The one where you put in a coin, like 50-cent coin. I don't know if it's still 50 cents. Yes, that's the one. We actually have one here at reception. You know, with the Pac-Man and the what's those ones. Yeah. Street Fighter. I think somebody like a character like a Zycon could really work on an arcade game on Street Fighter. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. So coming up on the show in the next short while, we will be in conversation with the Minister of Transport, Cindy Siwe Chikunga, who is currently in the UK campaigning for South Africa to be re-elected into the International Maritime Organization Council. So that conversation coming up a bit later on. And then before that, we'll play a package that has been compiled by Naledi Ngobo, looking at the Commission for Broad-Based Economic Empowerment, saying that fronting in terms of black ownership and other areas of transformation within various companies remains a problem. And remember, yesterday we spoke to Zimbabwe, who also pointed out that as far as he's concerned, the turning point around the downward trajectory of the country's economy was actually the promulgation of BEE. 0614-104107 and your ex at Aldrin Sampear.
Good afternoon, our senior pilot, Aldrin Sampear. Great show always. 3 to 6 on the flight with your team.
Yes.
It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver. How it looks like my captain, you're overexcited with
I hope Uncle JJ ends this with a honk.
December 2023, hi, my captain. Be careful on the air. Be careful on the air. Otherwise, all the passengers will find themselves on the sea. Hi. Let's say, Happy Friday, my captain.
Uncle JJ didn't give us the honk there. I really expected that we're going to get the honk there towards then. But imagine being in a flight and there's actually like good music playing on that flight. Like, you know how sometimes with taxis and you get into the taxi and there's good music, sometimes not so good music. But imagine being like on a flight and there's good music that's playing on that flight, where everybody's listening to the same music and not necessarily your headsets. 0614-104107. Let's go to Nigel, who's joining us from Durban. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Thank you for taking my call. I've been thinking of the former Chief Justice's very cogent and powerful lecture on Wednesday evening. But I think it's a pity that the whole event had to be squeezed into just over an hour. He obviously had to hurry what he was saying, didn't he? And he left out some of it, didn't he? I would like to see in future that the lecturer be assured of having an hour to speak. And also, there needs to be more question time. So I think question time should be allowed to stretch until 9:45, and then the concluding speeches can be made.
Thank you so much for that feedback, Nigel. We'll certainly share it with management. But a lot of people have also asked that the lecture itself, that is, be extended for over the 45 minutes, because currently we're scheduled 45 minutes. So having it longer than 45 minutes was certainly something that resonates with what other listeners have said. The Q&A part as well, quite important as well, because after all, it's an opportunity for the guest to ask questions directly to the guest lecturer. So thank you so much, Nigel. Really appreciate that. But Nigel, the full speech of the former Chief Justice will be uploaded onto our platform. So just waiting for the go-ahead around when it will be uploaded and how you can actually download the entire speech, including the part which the former Chief Justice couldn't read. And also, it is a broadcast, and we have timelines that we need to meet within that specific broadcast. 2 hours were scheduled for the lecture, including the Q&A session and everything else that was happening in between. But I'll take the feedback to management. 0614-104107.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sampear. Without being emotional, we all know that what killed Transnet was poor leadership, which came from a particular party. And we know that there was a lot of tenders buying trains which were too big.
Too tall, yeah.
And now with this new pairs, we all know that next year we're having election. So this is basically this other party funding itself for its campaign next year. Watch it. you'll see by the end of next year, the things will be worse at their Transnet.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Mataboge. Aldrin, I don't want to sound like Tepiso in Bloemfontein and insult people. I personally appreciate the fact that there is an amount of money that is going to be injected to Transnet. However, my major problem is the sabotage that we are doing or causing towards SOEs. Ourselves as South Africans and some foreign guys, we vandalize the infrastructure and expect miracles thereafter. I think that money is meant for something that is going to be progressive towards the operations in Transnet. But as I've indicated clearly, with the people who are vandalizing the infrastructure, this progress won't be realized. Thank you.
#SAFMBTH.
The Commission for Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment says fronting in terms of black ownership and other areas of transformation within various companies remains a problem. The Commission says the submission of fraudulent B-BBEE certificates also continues to prevail, while its inability to impose punitive penalties on non-compliant companies is a limiting factor. The Commission held an information sharing session with the media in Sandton to discuss the progress and challenges on issues of transformation and legislative compliance. Naledi Ngobo has that story.
The B-BBEE Commission has considered that inequality remains high due to a lack of compliance with the B-BBEE Act. The Commission says transformation in black ownership and management patterns remains low, while fronting among reporting companies remains an ongoing challenge. A compliance manager at the B-BBEE Commission, Lindiwe Madonsela, says 80% of the 1,200 complaints received by the Commission to date related to fronting.
So it's not that fronting happens around the ownership element or around management control, but also fronting happens around enterprise and supply development. It also happens around how skills development is supposed to be communicated. Then there are also sectors that we pick up that maybe based on their economic activities, that is why fronting cases that are being reported are high in those sectors. Mining sector, transport, construction as well as engineering, they tend to have year in and year out high number of fronting cases.
Commissioner Tsidiso Matona says the B-BBEE Commission needs more tools at its disposal, including some punitive measures to drive compliance with the legislation.
There are no consequences really, so we have to copy other legislations that require reporting. Maybe there are penalties with that one puts, right? We're not reporting. We don't have direct powers to prosecute, right? Because there are some cases that are so gross that I wish I could actually literally go in and handcuff the culprit. But the legislation doesn't give me those powers. So I have to refer, and we refer to the police, the African police, and we refer to the National Prosecuting Authority. And as it turns out, our matters pile up on top of other matters.
The B-BBEE Commission says part of its mandate is to receive and analyze compliance reports from SETAs, state organs, and JSE companies. It says of the 155 JSE compliance report received to date, it is yet to see any listed companies with a 100% black ownership. I'm Naledi Ngobo in Johannesburg.
Rand Water is concerned about the significant increase of water consumption in its areas of supply. The increase in water consumption is putting severe strain on Rand Water's distribution network. To save water, please do not wash your cars with hose pipes. Use buckets. Water your garden with sprinklers between sunset and sunrise. Do not wash your pavements with hose pipes. Use brooms. Repair your leaking taps. Cover your swimming pools to avoid quick evaporation. Shower instead of bathing in a tub.
This message is sponsored by Rand Water in partnership with City of Joburg, City of Ekurhuleni, and City of Tshwane.
I like to sell it, but want a good price for it. Where can I sell it? I'd like to sell it. I'd like to sell it. I'd like
Whoa. You want to sell your car?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you ask?
Well, because we'd like to buy it. 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 You want to sell it? We want to buy it. We buy cars. The best way to sell your car by far.
Richards Bay FC and Stellenbosch FC can already smell the final of the Carlin Knockout Cup. However, only one team will progress. The Natal Rich Boys are confident they will keep their fans delighted, but Stellies believe they have a master plan to grab the graduation certificate to the final. Catch the Carlin Knockout Cup semi-final clash, Richards Bay FC versus Stellenbosch FC, on Saturday 2 December at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Don't miss out on the SAFM Playwriting Competition. To enter, visit safm.co.za. From the menu icon, select Competitions. Click on the SAFM Drama Playwriting Competition. Read the T's and C's of the competition. Check out the competition's Q&A. Fill in the entry form by clicking the link provided. Email your script to drama@safm.co.za. For further information, email drama@safm.co.za. Entries close on the 22nd of January 2024. SAFM, leading the conversation. This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It is 8 minutes now before 4 o'clock. We're in conversation next with the Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chikunga. So the Transport Minister is currently leading a campaign for the re-election of South Africa into the International Maritime Organization Council for the 2023-2024 biennium. The IMO plays a pivotal role in shaping global standards of safe, secure, environmentally responsible and efficient sustainable shipping. And the Minister now joining us live from the United Kingdom. Minister, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, Adrian, and thank you for having us. It is very cold here in London.
I can imagine. You left our very, very warm weather to go to a very, very cold country. But speak to us, Minister, about why South Africa wants to be re-elected into the council.
Thank you very much for the question. We are a member of IMO, and for quite a long time, since 2005, we're serving in the Council of IMO, which, if you want, is the working body of IMO in between conferences. It ensures that resolutions of assembly are being implemented. Now, many decisions get taken at assemblies, but being processed by the council, and it is important for any country, but in particular the one country in the SADC region, but also a country such as South Africa, which is a maritime country, to be part of that, so that we are able to air our views well on time when they are still processed and prepared for the assembly, but also that we are there as the decisions are being implemented, and when there are difficulties, we are there to come up with solutions that talk to what we are as a developing country and developing nations, but of course also talking to our location in the map of the world, because indeed we are occupying a very strategic position, the busy shipping route. But of course, we might, if you want, be far from our trading partners. And therefore, how do we ensure the balance so that it does not it favors us, and it does not, whatever decisions that are taken, do not disadvantage us. They take into account South Africa and the location of South Africa in the map.
Yeah. Does the disasters or the tragedies that occur in the country at all play a role in determining whether or not South Africa is eligible to be re-elected? And now speaking about what happened in the Kamachi submarine disaster with the SANDF, or is that a separate matter?
I think what is important is what we are doing as South Africa. What do we stand for on issues related to shipping per se in the world, and what is our contribution in as far as that is concerned. Of course, how also we respond to disasters when they happen in our waters, that also comes. So when we make a statement, for instance, we will say we have a 3,000 kilometer coastline. We will say we are responsible for the waters that we have, including the three oceans, Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and Southern Ocean, and we are ensuring that the rescue facilities that are there, they ensure the safety of shipping companies that sail in our waters. So it's everything that we do. The convention that we ratify, we count on that, the seafarers that we're producing, but of course our contribution as well at the IMO, in committees of IMO, what is our way forward in as far as the decarbonization of the shipping as South Africa. So it's all those things put together that we put forward to countries, and of course the fact that we are representing, we're the only country from the SADC region. If South Africa is not there, like we are not part of the council right now because we voted out in 2021, it means there isn't any voice from the SADC region, but also it means that there are fewer voices from the African continent, and that is why it is important for a country such as South Africa, which is a maritime state, which is a port state as well, to be part of that, so that when these decisions get taken and this convention are processed, when the standards in terms of security, safety, and environmental issues that they are taken, we are there to say, remember, we are far from the trading partners, and if you take such a decision, this is how it's going to impact on us, and therefore this is what we need. For instance, the finances, for instance, the skills, whatever that we think we need.
Does the state of Transnet at all also play a role in determining whether South Africa should be re-elected into the council or not? And what's South Africa's explanation then to the council about what's currently happening with our ports?
Aldrin, what we are saying, yes, we do have challenges, but we are solving those problems. Remember, we have now what we're going to take to Cabinet, our freight logistic roadmap. The aim of that is to solve the problems that we have at our ports. The aim of that is to solve our problems that we have in the freight rail, and the private sector participation framework that we are also taking to Cabinet. It aims at ensuring that the private sector plays a role together with the public sector, and we know as to who is responsible for what. And we're looking at the implementation of the National Rail Policy, for instance, which calls for the separation of infrastructure from the operations, and therefore which actually says we must establish an equivalent, for instance, of SANRAL in the road sector. And then, of course, private sector then operates on that infrastructure. It comes up with proposals on how we should even fund the rail infrastructure in South Africa. But it actually says, if, for instance, we say operators, if I have a train, you have a train, somebody else has got a train, but of course the Transnet freight rail also has trains, we can all go and apply for operating licenses, we give them slots, we run the trains. Yeah. And we believe that with that, it is going to address the problems that we have. It's the same thing in our ports as well, separating the infrastructure from the operation.
So Transnet Minister had asked for 100 billion rand from Treasury, and Treasury has given them a 47 billion rand guarantee. And I was just speaking to somebody from the Freight Association who said, of course, it does mean that government is taking this issue serious, but how far does a 47 billion rand goes in terms of guarantee, not cash injection, when Transnet needs over 100 billion rand even to implement the turnaround strategy?
I heard this over the news. Remember, I'm in London, and I think it just happened when I'm not in the country. But I think that question would have been very correct if asked to minister responsible for Transnet, because that is now about the operations, and therefore the shareholding minister is the one who can actually respond to the question. But you are correct. This is confirming the seriousness of government in ensuring that we change our ports. You know, Adrian, let me tell you, we move our freight more than 90% of our freight through the oceans. So if we don't have it right in our ports, then of course the economy is not going to grow. It doesn't just affect, it's not the issue that ends in our ports. It's something that is affecting a farmer out there who is growing, for instance, grapes. And those grapes have got to be exported to a country X. For the country X to want to buy the grapes from South Africa, they must be assured that they will reach them well on time before those grapes lose the quality that they require. That is important. So it's about somebody who's working in that farm who will continue to work because they are able to grow such tons of grapes. If that farmer is not assured that those grapes will be exported well on time and those that we are buying from him will get those and be ready to pay, it means he must cut down on the tons of grapes. And that means loss of work for farmers. And that's how important the issue of ports are. And that is why, as government, we are very serious about it. And that is why we're taking the PSP, that is Private Sector Participation Framework, together with the freight logistic roadmap to Cabinet. So that if it means working over December, we do that.
Thank you so much for your time. That is the Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chukunga, joining us from the United Kingdom, where South Africa is seeking re-election into the International Maritime Organization Council. Apologies, we're a bit late for the news with Mudupi Makhalimen.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Thank you very much, Aldrin. The top stories this hour: hot weather increases pressure on the power grid, and Ramaphosa responds to questions on his legal costs. A very good afternoon. Eskom says extremely hot weather conditions experienced across the country have driven up electricity demand, and this has put increased pressure on the grid. The Weather Service says Gauteng and the Northern Cape will experience a heat wave from tomorrow that will continue until this coming Tuesday. Eskom spokesperson Daphne Mukwena has advised South Africans to limit the use of pool pumps and other devices to avoid high stages of load shedding amidst the sweltering heat.
Whether there is correlation between the high electricity demand and heat wave, the answer is yes. And this is particularly seen around 2 o'clock during the day. With the expected heat wave starting from tomorrow, Eskom has incorporated this into their plans, hence the stages of load shedding that we've just announced. We, however, plead with members of the public to please switch off their pool pumps or use them efficiently, as well as their geysers, so that we can alleviate pressure from the system and
since he assumed office in February 2018. He has revealed this in a written reply to a parliamentary question from the EFF. The reply indicates that 9 million rand were the costs incurred when the president was the applicant, while 23 million was spent on matters where he was cited as the first respondent. Ramaphosa has been cited as the first respondent in his capacity as president in numerous cases. The Free State government has appealed to people living with HIV/AIDS to continue taking their antiretroviral drugs to curb the spread of the virus. Premier Mxolisi Dukwana, in his capacity as the chairperson of the Free State Provincial Council on AIDS, led the commemoration of World AIDS Day in Welkom today. The Premier's spokesperson, Sello Dithebe.
The Free State Provincial Government is determined to work with all social partners and indeed with the national government to ensure that the fight against HIV/AIDS is won so that there can be longevity even as people get exposed to HIV.
Stokvel members are urged to find safer ways when distributing their money, especially during this festive season. A number of Stokvel robberies have been reported to the police in the recent past. Mpumalanga Police spokesperson Sylvie Mohlala says community members should refrain from carrying large amounts of cash. He further advises Stokvel members to use electronic methods of distributing money.
would always advise the stokvel members to say that we've got technology that is very much advanced, that is very compatible with everything. There's no need for them to be able to, to share money in a very traditional way, whereby you go to the bank, withdraw a large sum of money, and then you share it in the presence of everyone. Because, look, information can be retrieved from anywhere else. People might know that there's a money that is going to be shared, and at the end of the day, you find that they are getting robbed.
And Madagascar's Constitutional Court has declared incumbent President Andry Rajoelina as the winner of last month's elections. This has effectively handed him a third term. Rajoelina received almost 59% of the votes cast. The court has also dismissed various challenges lodged by the opposition against the provisional results announced by the electoral body. Kaelihle Khumalo has more.
10 out of 13 presidential candidates boycotted the polls, but their names were already on the ballot. The November 16 election was preceded by weeks of protest, with the opposition accusing Andry Rajoelina of having created unfair election conditions. Rajoelina has dismissed such allegations. He first came to power in a 2009 coup and stepped down in 2014 as a leader of a transitional authority, but then became president again after winning a 2018 election. Kaelihle Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The top story at 4 o'clock, Eskom says extremely hot weather conditions experienced across the country have driven up electricity demand, and this has put increased pressure on the grid. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
A very good afternoon to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's soccer. Striker Samir Nurgovic has found himself a new home at TS Galaxy. And in cricket, the veteran Dane Pitt takes 11 wickets as South Africa A level the series against the West Indies. All this and more at around 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's quite heavy today on the run through Midrand towards Joburg. It's a stationary vehicle at the Beclue interchange, and the traffic is parking back through Allendale and halfway back up the road towards New Road. Also, the N1 south towards William Mandela, that's slow again today. Crash before the four-ways off-ramp, and you've got a breakdown before Beyers Nordier. So that's about your third queue running south on the N1. That one from Randburg heading into that Beyers Nordier exit remains slow. Crash on the N12 westbound before the Reading interchange. That traffic parking back to the N3 south of the Elands interchange. Dreadfully backed up N3 out of Pietermaritzburg down to Durban. One of those afternoons that come along occasionally. There are two broken down vehicles in the roadworks, one at Ashburton and another down by Umlas Road. And of course, you've got weekend volumes there. It's very heavy. That queue to Durban starts at Market Road. Cape Town today, very heavy on the N2 outbound. Again, weekend volumes causing a backlog and a half through the Somerset West area. And if you're driving Eastern Cape, Gqeberha, there's been a crash involving a Hazchem vehicle. It's a truck carrying gas bottles just by the Cape Road exit. Very heavy as you come from Deal Party going west in towards that. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 45 Rand from Pretoria to Midrand. It's for our clever who turn 5-liter bottles into workout dumbbells. And for the slim oaks who bring a home-cooked scuff team to work every day. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 45 Rand from Pretoria to Midrand Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Banyana, African champions and top 16 team in the world are in action on Monday the 4th of December 2023 at the Lucas Moripe Stadium at 3 p.m. They are on the road to defend the trophy as they face Burkina Faso for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations 2024 qualifiers. Join us to close the year. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro at 20 Rand for adults and free for children under 12 and scholars in uniform. You can also watch the match live on S3 at 3 p.m.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
10 past 4.
10 past 4. Bob!
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
And it is 4:10. Coming up on the show in this hour, we speak to Advocate Simba Chitando, who is a counsel for the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit Holders Association. So the Minister of Home Affairs announced earlier on that the ZEP for 178,000 Zimbabwean nationals will be extended for another 2 years. And those of Basotho as well will also be extended. So we'll hear from Advocate Simba Chitando around that. And then at 4:20, we speak identity fraud. We will be in conversation with Jared Jansen, who is a business development manager at some sub, to speak to us about the identity fraud that we've been seeing doing the rounds, especially now with artificial intelligence. You may have seen some video clips of especially my colleagues, including Bongiwe. I think there's one of Francis Heard as well, where they are seen to be endorsing a product, a financial product that supposedly Elon Musk has come up with, and they are reading the news. That's not actually them. It has been generated through artificial intelligence. So we'll be speaking to Jared around that. And then at 4:45, we speak to Thando Dlamini, final year student at the University of Pretoria, who's doing a Bachelor for Consumer Sciences, Food Retail Management. Can food waste be upscaled? Well, their research has found that you can actually do it. So we speak to Thando Dlamini around that. 0614-104107. And you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hey Aldrin, music in the flight, my brother, is not gonna work because there are different people in that flight.
Yeah.
Imagine they are playing
even in the taxi,
music,
there are different people.
Mandarin, and it's not gonna work, my brother. Northern Ireland.
No, but remember they say that music is a universal language.
Hi Aldrin, it's Admire here in KZN. When you said something about Zai Khan's name, I went to Google just to check the spelling, and you know what? Her first name, Zai, means something else in my language. Zai is an egg, ikanda in my language.
Which language is that?
Thank you, good show as always.
Which language is that? Anyone know? Okay, please, if you can please tell us which language is that. I hope that Zai is listening. Egg Khan coming up with the sports a bit later on 0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It is 13 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Advocate Simba Chitando, the counsel for the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit Holders Association. So the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, announced that the Department of Home Affairs has granted exemption permits for 178,000 Zimbabwean nationals and around 54,000 Basotho nationals for another 2 years. This is in light of upcoming deadlines for exemption permits and the court decision to dismiss the ministry's appeal to challenge the June 2023 ruling surrounding the termination of the ZEP program made by the Helen Suzman Foundation. To tell us more about the legal implications of this extension, we speak to Advocate Simba Chitando. Advocate Chitando, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Your initial reaction to this decision?
Afternoon and greetings to your audience. Well, this is obviously an example of a beleaguered minister who's been moving backwards since he made a decision that everyone accepts was unlawful and the court has found to be unlawful, and now obviously unenforceable, which is why he has asked for another 2 years for the validity of the ZEP. This comes after, as you rightly said in your intro, that he has lost court cases in this regard, and this ZEP, according to the permit itself, is non-extendable, but they have now extended it for what would be now 5 years of a non-extendable permit, all because he does not want ZEP holders to be regularized in this country.
But with the ZEP, from initially when it was started back in 2009, it was never meant to be permanent, isn't it?
It was, according to the permit itself, it was never meant to be extended. It was non-extendable. But it is the minister himself who has extended it. So he has broken the terms of his own permit. And he lost the court case in the Pretoria High Court. He has been losing several court cases in regards to how this matter can be enforced. He has created several legal issues for various ZEP holders, students, truck drivers, people who employ ZEP holders. He's been taken to court on those issues and has lost as well. The minister is moving backwards here, and he's causing a lot of harm to 78,000 ZEP holders because he's made a bad decision.
Yeah.
That everyone accepts to be a bad decision.
So in that last court judgment, the issue there was the lack of consultation, and actually that the minister had a legal obligation to actually consult the ZEP holders and also various other stakeholders, which the minister then admitted that, of course, it didn't happen. What do you think will happen over the next 2 years that may actually lead to a final decision where Cabinet adopts the decision once again to say that the ZEP permit will not be extended?
Well, the only thing that can happen that actually works is if the minister's decisions are taken to court, including this latest one. So we can finally put to bed this issue and allow ZEP holders to apply for permanent residency. They have been in the country now for more than 12 years, and by the time this extension is complete, more than 15 years, having their rights held ransom to several bad decisions that the court has already found to be unlawful.
Is the intention to go to court to actually, because the minister was saying during the press briefing as well, that the extension for the next 2 years does not necessarily mean that the holders become eligible for permanent residence?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. The various parties have taken the minister to court. My clients, our organization, has always sought permanent residency. There's papers before court in that regard. We shall be filing more papers in light of what has happened. The only answer to this mess, and I said this before, is if ZEP holders are allowed to apply for permanent residency. The law as it stands provides for it. And what has been happening for the past few years is that the ZEP holders have been pushed from pillar to post, applying for waivers when their waiver applications were being rejected, only to have the rejection by the minister withdrawn. He withdrew his own rejection letters and encouraged ZEP holders to apply yet again. He's playing games with people's lives. The only thing that can happen now is for ZEP holders to apply for permanent residency. Obviously, he cannot get rid of them, which is why he's asking for a 2-year extension. They've been here long enough. They're being exploited at places of work. Many have lost their jobs. Some students have been denied an opportunity to write exams, even though our organization successfully got a court order that allowed for ZEP holders' children to write exams or to go to school. He's creating a humanitarian crisis. The world is watching. It is about time that the minister does the right thing and allows ZEP holders to apply for permanent residence, because this issue has gone on far too long.
Thank you so much for your time. Advocate Simba Chitando, the counsel for the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit Holders Association. While you have this extension that has been granted by the minister, they're not happy with that, and we could possibly see this matter end up in court once again. 0614-104107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Thank you for joining us at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg on SAFM 104 to 107 FM, on Facebook, X and YouTube channels for our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
The SABC is making some changes to its trailblazing SABC Plus app. This may result in a temporary pause of services, but it is necessary to pave the way for an exciting new service offering. During this brief hiatus, which should not be more than 48 hours, the SABC will be migrating the SABC Plus services to a new technology system, which will result in the scheduled downtime. SABC Plus assures its viewers that this interruption is temporary and efforts are being made to expedite the transition process. Regular updates will be provided to keep our audience informed about the resumption of the SABC Plus services and exciting improvements to come.
The 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign. This year, be an activist. Play your part. Do not protect abusers. Report them. Hashtag no to GBVF.
SAFM leading the conversation. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
It's 21 minutes after 4 o'clock. Before we go to your voice notes, once again, just a reminder that for the bonding session this afternoon, because we are also in a festive spirit, we are asking you to come up with a topic for the bonding session for 5 o'clock. So any conversation that you'd like us to have with the listeners nationally, please send us through a voice note and tell us what that topic is. We'll bring you on. We can have a short discussion about what the topic is, and then we open it up to the rest of the listeners. Remember, we are not looking for current affairs topics, so nothing current affairs related, also nothing really heavy. Try to be as light as possible, and if you can throw in a bit of humor in there as well, it is more than welcome. So 0614-104-107, that's where you can send through your topic suggestions to for the bonding session. That is 0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Let's take some of your voice notes.
Hi, good afternoon, my captain. Hey, this is Nklentle here. Yeah, well, about Transnet, that relief fund or that money being injected there. Really, I would like to concur with the people who are saying this is the ANC strategy for campaigning for the election. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa was here in Richards Bay. All of a sudden, now they're going to put that 67 billion. We know that people are suffering, they are not working, but really, corruption.
Yeah, so just clarity once again that the 47 billion is not hard cash. Remember earlier on we were speaking about the cash injection that Transnet was asking for. They didn't get the cash injection. Instead, what they've received is a guarantee which allows them to go to the market to try and actually raise that money.
Hi, Adrian. Zai, it's a Shona. Zai means one, which means one egg. Mazai means more, which means there's more than one. So Zai on its own, it's a one egg.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
23 minutes after 4 o'clock. Zai, I hope that Zai heard that. We're in conversation next with Jared Jensen, who is a Business Development Manager Africa at Sub. So this week, the third Global Identity Fraud Report was released. The research unpacks the leading causes of identity fraud across 28 countries and collates data from 2 million cases from the past 12 months. Cases of identity fraud have multiplied tenfold in the past year. The top 5 types of identity fraud include artificial intelligence powered fraud, money mulling networks, fake IDs, account takeovers, and forced verification. Closer to home, the report highlights that there has been a surge of 1,200% in deep fake fraud cases in South Africa. There have been recent cases of a deep fake fraud affecting news anchors Francis Hurd as well as Bongwe Zwane from SABC. Earlier this year, a similar incident occurred with a member of Parliament, Linus Breitenbach. To unpack these findings and what the public needs to know, we are now joined by Jared Jensen. Jared, good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Hey, good afternoon, Aldrin. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much. Are we sure that we are actually speaking to Jared here?
You are definitely speaking to me.
And how do we make sure that we are actually speaking to Jared with what artificial intelligence is capable of doing?
So do I sound a little bit robotic or tinny?
I don't know. Perhaps somebody else might be convinced that this is him, and when the other hand, it could be somebody else. It could be AI generated.
Hey, no. I kind of exist, and my business exists to fight against these types of things. So if I was using it to try fool you, then I'm no better than the financial criminals that actually utilize it for their own financial gain or anything. So,
tell us about what this report has uncovered.
Yeah, so it's actually really scary. I mean, we actually do it every single year, and this year we of course uncovered quite a lot when it comes to all the different types of fraud attacks that are the most common or popular around the globe. And as you mentioned a little bit earlier, of course we uncovered that deepfake. The growth of deepfakes being used to try and gain access to like financial systems and everything here in South Africa has grown over like 1,200% in the past year, from 2022 to around this time in 2023. And it's really, really shocking. And this report covers absolutely everything around the world. So we cover, of course, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, a whole bunch of other countries in Africa as well. And, it's not just here in Africa where it's happening. It's become a lot more common on a global scale. And the only reason for that is because the technology has just become so openly available to the public, and it's really scary because right now it's actually quite basic when it comes to the technology that's actually available. Like if someone mentioned AI to you 5 or 10 years ago, Aldrin, I mean, would you be like, oh wow, that's
hogwash?
Hogwash. That's nonsense. This will never happen. But yeah, it is happening, and it's scary. The AI is kind of in its infant stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's still just a baby.
Yeah. And if we look at the various countries, especially on the continent, which ones are more vulnerable as it currently stands, and what your stats have revealed?
Yeah, so in Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, and Nigeria actually have the highest fraud rates. But South Africa in particular has been hit the hardest with the increase in deepfake attacks, followed by Nigeria, which actually has an increase of 700%.
And what is it about South Africa that makes it so vulnerable? And is there also a question about the infrastructure that allows this type of technology, because it is technology that is being used to actually put through or conclude the fraud? Because at the end of the day, it's the money that gets lost as well, but then people's identities as well, and some people end up being involved in credit facilities that they didn't even take up.
Yeah, well, that's very true. You hit the nail on the head here. And the thing is, and let me just start off with this, if you don't mind, Aldrin.
Sure.
So, identity theft is nothing new, right? It's been happening for a very long time, and it's just becoming more prominent due to how easy it can actually be done. And for the listeners, I just want everyone to know, like, the number one reason for identity theft, of course, is for financial gain, followed by hiding another crime. And, of course, and it sounds like a weird one, but it's also for revenge, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very strange one, but it's true. But in today's, like, ever-changing world, this sort of dance between technology and, like, human behavior is getting more complex, okay? So as South Africans and citizens of other countries around the world move into a state of like deeper financial stress or distress, they become more desperate to make ends meet. And since advanced AI, of course, technology is openly available to the public, the temptation to use it to make some quick cash becomes too real. Which, if we had to go and take a look at what happened recently with like Elon Musk and the SABC news anchors and all that, it's just it could have been an attack by a financial crime group, but it could have actually just been orchestrated by one or two people or three people here in South Africa that were quite desperate to try make some money, to make ends meet. It can be something simple like that, but it doesn't take away from the fact how serious and how dangerous it is.
Any advice?
Yeah, so, the thing is, honestly, I could go on about this for forever, but we don't have much time. But Aldrin, if you want to keep me on for the next 30 minutes to an hour, then of course we could dive a lot deeper into this. But it's really...
Okay, let's do this because I think it is important. Let's do this. We're going to go to the news headlines quickly, and then when we come back after a market update, let's deal with what people need to look out for when it comes to identity fraud, especially now that you have artificial intelligence generated identity fraud. That is Jared Jensen, who is a business development manager, Africa at Samsap. We'll have the conversation just after the market update with Makwe Masilele.
A very good afternoon. With the news headlines, Eskom says extremely hot weather conditions experienced across the country have driven up electricity demand, and this has put increased pressure on the grid. A 19-year-old woman has been arrested for allegedly killing her father at Roerfontein outside Giyani in Limpopo. And the UN Security Council is due to vote today to remove the final restrictions on weapons deliveries to Somalia's government and its security forces more than 30 years after an arms embargo was first imposed on the country. Details of these and other stories, 5 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy coming down through Midrand on the M1 South. That's breakdown at Beclu interchange, and the traffic is heavy. It's all the way back through towards the new road exit. If you're leaving Pretoria en route to Joburg, just keep in mind that's a big backlog to work through. There's also a crash scene on the N12 westbound. Going in towards the Reading interchange. Delays there coming off the N3 from sort of cement factory territory, southbound into Elands, and then queuing all the way through on that N12 westbound carriageway. Slight change up if you're Durban bound out of Pietermaritzburg, but it stays heavy. There's now breakdown at Ashburton, so that's a queue from Market Road, and then some delays between Camperdown and Cato Ridge, 2 queues to work through. Durban's N3 outbound heavy today from Sherwood right through Spaghetti Junction out towards Pavilion. We think that's some roadworks there, but there's also a broken down vehicle at Pavilion Mall causing that backlog Pinetown bound. Somerset West, the N2 is heavy both ways, particularly outbound. Big queues out of Stellenbosch today. The R304 heavy queues going north towards Bottleray Road, and if you're driving Quebec, there's been a Hascam truck involved in the crash, carrying gas bottles near the Cape Road and Crocker-Karma exit. So the run west down through the Cotswolds towards that scene stays heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's go to it. We'll kick it off with TS Galaxy and their striker Samir Nurkovic enjoying football again amidst all the drama. He's found a new home in TS Galaxy. Despite rediscovering his mojo, the Serbian is yet to win a trophy in the PSL apart from solo awards that included this season's DStv Premiership September-October goal of the month. But as Galaxy go in search of the ultimate prize in the inaugural Carling Knockout Cup, they'll face Amazulu in the semi-final that's taking place in Durban come Sunday. We also have other news with cricket action. Dane Pitt's 6-wicket haul helping South Africa A complete a comprehensive 232-run win over the West Indies A. This was the final action of the second 4-day match. Took place in Buffalo Park, East London. The right-arm spinner claimed 6 for 79 to complete a haul of 11 for 107 to ensure the hosts level the series 1-1. The decisive third match between the sides will take place in Bloemfontein, and that will happen next week. We've also got news with with plenty of action with rugby, and the focus will be on Nizam Kar. Now, he is the Bulls' loose forward, and he is wanting to add value to South African rugby. Now, the 32-year-old, who's earned his fifth Test cap in 2016, does not openly state whether he's hoping for a Springbok comeback. Let's take a listen to what he has to say. Nizam Kar.
A lot more experience now from when we first started with Jake in 2020 or 2021. So a lot of players has grown. We've had more, obviously, definitely noticeable more Springboks. Whoever the captain's armband is given to, they know what is expected of them. And I think the nice thing with Jake is it's sort of a collective effort where he will sort of do the attack. You've got a defense leader, you've got a breakdown leader in Marco van Staden. So it's not everything coming from you or specific person like Reinhard Ludwig. If he captains a team, he's got that support system that Jake already puts in place.
More rugby now. John Plumtree has been marching to Pretoria for another, look, as well as looking at a Sharks win at Loftus Versfeld. As a player for Natal in the 90s, the coach of the Sharks and Hurricane says that he definitely wants to see how he can corral the other teams. He's looking forward to the action, especially in the United Rugby Championship. This game, of course, will be the biggest occasion for Apiwe Dianti. Now, he's having a comeback from a 4-year suspension, and that was his suspension, which began tentatively 2 months ago. Plumtree was careful managing the former Bokwing, and he's not expecting too much for him any time soon. So kick-off tomorrow will be at 3 p.m, and it means the visitors will face the twin influences of the heat and the altitude. So you can look forward to that one as well. The Sharks really looking forward to taking on the team that will be important for them in this URC tournament. Plenty of action in the URC. We'll keep you updated here as always. When they take on the Bulls, that will be later this weekend. All this and more sport with headlines, top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
Did you hear that?
Finger went up.
Did you hear it?
That excellent review.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. Did you know that?
No, like somebody has literally cracked the code.
Wow. Because I Googled your name as well now.
Did you?
Yeah. And from my end, it speaks about prosperity, prosperous, fortunate. I don't know if you've ever done that.
No.
What Zai means.
Now I know what it means.
Yeah, prosperous and fortunate. This particular
Prosperous,
yes,
fortunate.
and fortunate. But then...
Which language is that?
It says
English?
here it is Arabic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, female name of Arabic origin. But as you've heard, that your name in Shona actually means egg.
I think that's more exciting.
Egg Khan. I'll
take it.
Egg Khani.
You know, egg Khani. Oh, wow. It's got so many layers now.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a lovely afternoon. Egg Khan with the sports is coming back just after. Should we scramble it, or do you want to sun it side up in a bit?
Unfertilized, please.
It's the celebration of the century, and you're invited. We've already given away almost 3 million rand with 56 daily vouchers won. Buy a new Ford before 31 December and you could win a 50,000 rand voucher or the grand prize of us paying for your new Ford. Visit your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
Banyana, African champions and top 16 team in the world are in action on Monday the 4th of December 2023 at the Lucas Moripe Stadium at 3 p.m. They are on the road to defend the trophy as they face Burkina Faso for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations 2024 qualifiers. Join us to close the year. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro at 20 Rand for adults and free for children under 12 and scholars in uniform. You can also watch the match live on S3 at 3 p.m.
Don't miss out on the SAFM Playwriting Competition. To enter, visit safm.co.za. From the menu icon, select Competitions. Click on the SAFM Drama Playwriting Competition. Read the T's and C's of the competition. Check out the competition's Q&A. Fill in the entry form by clicking the link provided. Email your script to drama@safm.co.za. For further information, email drama@safm.co.za. Entries close on the 22nd of January 2024. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get a market update with Paswane Mphahlele, who's a portfolio manager, senior portfolio manager at Markwe Fund Managers. Paswane, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Tell us about what's been happening on the market.
Afternoon, Aldrin. We're seeing a mixed sentiment, mixed markets coming from the November rally to start December. Today, investors received some positive news coming out of China that their manufacturing PMI business activities have risen to 50.7 in the month of November. This is expanding and is better than what we expected as both output and demand returned following various efforts by the government to stimulate the economy. We see Beijing pledged 1 trillion in manufacturing infrastructure development, and we see copper responding very well to that, rising to a 4-month high since August, an extending gain, further supported by the expectation that central banks can be cutting rates, as we've seen that the expectations have risen from around the low 10s to basically 50% in Q1 cutting. Meanwhile, in South Africa, we see that manufacturing PMI rose at a slower pace to 48.2, recording its 10th month in contraction, and this follows a decline in demand activity, dampening new sales, and the improvement we've seen coming from the previous month is materialized to any new employment. But just to focus on the big numbers and to respond to these developments, we're seeing mixed markets. We've seen the US opened lower ahead of Powell's comments coming into an event he's attending to find a catalyst. We're seeing the Nasdaq was down 0.5, S&P is down 0.2, the Dow is flat. Europe markets are trading in the green. FTSE up 0.4, DAX 0.5%, and CAC up 0.1. Well, locally we failed to hold our gains we had earlier in trade. We're down 0.2, direct by industrials down 1.3. We're seeing our resources managing to be positive. So the Chinese story up 0.9. And while our financials were flat, looking into these commodities, we're seeing gold was flat ahead of that Powell speech. We're seeing gold at $20,036 an ounce. Platinum was down 0.6 at $923 an ounce, while Brent managed to cut those losses we've seen recently, up 0.5 at $80.90 a barrel. The rand is relatively stronger today. Rand against the dollar against the rand is 18.70. Rand against the euro is 20.32, and rand against the pound is 23 rand 62 cents.
Thank you so much. That's Paswane Mphahlele, senior portfolio manager at Markwe Fund Managers.
Hi, I'm Humorous KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
#SAFMBTH.
Okay, and we're making the final call for the bonding session coming up just after 5 o'clock. And as we said, that this afternoon we want to give you the opportunity as our listeners to come up with a topic that you'd like us to discuss for the bonding session. Remember, nothing heavy really, no current affairs, just something light if we're possible at all. And if you have some humor that you want to throw into it as well, that will be highly welcomed. Remember, it's the 1st of December, by the way. So festivities and festive topics are also most welcome. 0614-104-107. That's where you can send through your suggestion. And then we'll call you just before 5 o'clock and we share your topic with the rest of the nation. And we have the conversation just after 5 o'clock.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Okay, let's conclude the conversation with Jared Jensen, who is a Business Development Manager Africa at SumSub, looking at the third Global Identity Fraud Report. And Jared was about to give us some tips that you need to look out for when it comes to identity fraud and also the use of artificial generated fraud. Jared, actually, before we do the tips, and thank you so much for holding on, one of our listeners came through and wanted to know exactly what deep fake is.
Can you hear me, Aldrin?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so deepfakes are basically just computer-generated media, often videos, that use artificial intelligence to replace the likeness of a person in an existing image or video with someone else's likeness. And this technology, of course, can manipulate facial expressions and voice to create a convincing yet fabricated content. It's really just about blending people's faces with each other. And of course, when it comes to the voices as well, it's really about if a person has lots of recordings of your voice, they are able to basically just enter a prompt into their application or specific applications or software, and they can actually get your voice to say whatever it is that they want. But it generally ends up sounding a little bit robotic and tinny. And that is one of the telltales of a deepfake, is that voice just doesn't sound completely natural. But you really need to sit and just pause for a little while and scrutinize it to actually pick it up, because it can sound extremely real.
Okay, and now that you've given us that particular tip, anything else that we need to look out for?
Yeah, so, the thing is, it's very difficult to completely avoid deepfakes and all of that, because, as I mentioned before, it's so openly available to the public. But, you really just, basically what I just said right now is that you shouldn't believe every single thing that you see on the internet. You need to be extremely careful with what you share on what platforms online. And, when it comes to social media, for example, it's not really a regulated industry. A person can just create a new email address, go and sign up, and use someone else's details, because the social media platforms don't need to verify all of the individuals that actually register on their platforms. It's one thing that's a very big problem is that it's completely unregulated. And it's very difficult to avoid this from happening unless you live quite a private life. But you just need to remain vigilant and just be aware of how this type of technology is so open to the public, and it can be used against you. But then when it comes to corporates or businesses, of course, it's much easier to protect them and the individuals, because with SumSub, for example, of course, we are a global leader when it comes to identity verification, and we can detect deep fakes and forged documents with over 99.98% accuracy. Therefore, we can protect the business, but then we can also protect the people who have had their documents or their face stolen by someone else. But for everyone else that is listening, you just need to, of course, just think about it for a little bit. AI has developed so fast, and of course, most of us were completely unaware of this a couple of years ago. We wouldn't have believed it, but it's so easy for your identity to actually be stolen. But of course, that's where we come in to make sure that no one can actually use your identity online when registering for a bank account or any type of loan or anything like that.
Okay, thank you so much for those tips. That is Jared Jensen, who's a Business Development Manager Africa at SumSub.
A loving partner shouldn't take away your choices. Your choice of clothes, your choice to wear makeup and cut your hair. A loving partner shouldn't choose your friends or choose how you spend your time. A loving partner shouldn't control who you speak to. If your partner is controlling your choices, it's abuse. Get help now. Dial Tears *134 *7355# or visit tears.co.za. An SABC supported initiative.
Richards Bay FC and Stellenbosch FC can already smell the final of the Carlin Knockout Cup. However, only one team will progress. The Natal Rich Boys are confident they will keep their fans delighted, but Stellies believe they have a master plan to grab the graduation certificate to the final. Catch the Carlin Knockout Cup semi-final clash, Richards Bay FC versus Stellenbosch FC, on Saturday 2 December at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. We're in conversation next with Thando Dlamini, final year student at the University of Pretoria, who's doing a Bachelor for Consumer Sciences, Food Retail Management. So the final year students from the University of Pretoria's Department of Consumer and Food Sciences have turned research into practice by creating dishes that preserve food waste and turn into nutritious food products. Thando Dlamini now joining us on the line. Thando, good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much. So, the question that you got, can food waste be rescued and recreated so there's more to go around for malnourished communities? And what's the answer?
The answer is yes. So we recently had our event, our exam, which pushed us final year students to find different ways to combat food waste. And through this, we were able to create products as well as create a menu, as well as some canapes and drinks that highlight how we can reuse food waste in ways that we have never thought about before.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about some of the dishes that you were able to come up with, and also the research around how much waste actually comes from retailers.
So we looked at how much food waste comes pre-retail, retail, and also in the hospitality segment. Over 10 million tons are wasted yearly in South Africa, and 40% of that counts as fruit and vegetable waste. So we focused on using that and creating products. So we have 3 different categories within our department. There's culinary science, which focused on using the root to the fruit of the fruit itself. So they used spinach stems. They used blemished tomatoes that usually wouldn't be seen in the retail store. Then we had our hospitalities, which created meals using black garlic, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, onion skins, and they charred it and created a rub. And then we had our retailers who created 3 products, one that reused wasted alcohol, one that also used fruits and vegetables and dehydrated it into a functional powder, and another that created fruit roll-ups that are nutritious, zero added sugar for children as well.
Oh, incredible. So are these type of recipes that I can put together at home, or are there certain chemicals that I would need?
Most of them are ones that you can create at home. Apart from the culinary ones, they do some work that does require a little bit more of a thought process to create their dishes. But other than this, a lot of the times we actually do upcycle within our houses. We just don't realize that it is called upcycling until you go and you read the research on what upcycling really is.
Yeah. Do you guys have a website perhaps where we can go to and get some of the menus and suggestions as well around how we can upcycle our food waste?
So currently we just have our Instagram page, which is called foodwaste_upcycle, where you're going to find all the information about what we created over the last 2-3 weeks. And from there, there's also some information on what the dishes were that were done.
Okay, then perfect. Thank you so much and well done.
Thank you.
That is Thando Dlamini, final year student at University of Pretoria, who's doing a Bachelor for Consumer Sciences at Food Retail Management on the upcycling of food waste. 0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
Okay, so any moment from now, we'll be introducing our topic for the bonding session just after 5 o'clock. Let's take your voice notes on 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. It's Mike here in Cape Town. Yeah, I was listening your discussion with Advocate Simbachi Tando on the ZEP. Yes, the ZEP is due, Aldrin. People must be granted only permanent residence. There is nothing a Home Affairs Minister can just go around. These people are due. These people are due enough. Long time. He is just trying his mind and trying to be clever and trying to show himself his mind. But sometimes his mind will just come back to show that he is doing something which is not good, something which is not even experienced on his duties. He is just supposed to grant those people a permanent residence and then close the chapter. Simple. Okay, Aldrin.
Talking of the Minister Motsoaledi losing court cases, I beg to differ. He is not losing any court cases. Us South Africans, we are the ones who are losing these cases, and it's us South Africans who are at disadvantage. These people, the one who are holding these permits, they are exploiting our hospitality. No, after you help someone, open up your arms and they get helped, then they take advantage of you. That is what is happening here. It's Mutsumi. Thank you.
Aldrin and fellow SFM listeners, good afternoon. My name is Tulani Nzima Incredible. Aldrin, why did the ANC, especially under the ministry of Umbalula, allow Transnet to be stripped of its assets like it happened during COVID? That's the most important question for me. I don't think Transnet would have been in this particular problem. The stripping of assets of Transnet literally stripped us, as the poorest of them all, a mode of transport that was very, very cheap. What happened to those people? Why are we not thinking about them? The people who were using trains 100 rand per month. Now they were forced to go to take taxis and spending a lot of money. We've killed the middle class and we've killed the poorest of them all with these prices and this economy under President Ramaphosa. It's just unfair. Thank you.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
It is 3 minutes now before 5 o'clock, and it's time to introduce our topic for the bonding session, which is sponsored by one of our listeners. And we have Flores on the line from Cape Town. Flores, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Aldrin, and your entire team there. And also, good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your topic that you're sponsoring this afternoon. So, it is the festive season, and you want to raise a point.
Absolutely. Aldrin, how much time do I have to explain? It's not long.
You can go on. We have until the top of the hour.
Yes, Aldrin, let me tell you, first and foremost, it's December and everyone goes crazy and everyone wants to go out, have a nice time, deck of food, drinks. But Aldrin, there's always an issue when it comes to family or friends. You planning your holiday, each one discuss who is going to bring what, whether it's drinks or food. But there's always something going wrong. My wife and I was invited to a family friend last year, 300 kilometers away from where we're staying, and we discussed beforehand who's going to do the drinks, the salads, and the meats. So it was only going to be
so there was like a conference type of thing, you know. And there was a summit resolution that Flores and his wife, they are going to bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Absolutely, because that's how we do things. Yeah. Because then no one can complain. And upon arrival, just to cut to the chase, upon arrival, it was only going to be the 4 of us having a joy of a time. There were 5 kids running around between ages of 4 and 10 years old. And I said to myself, what's going on here, to my wife? And then when we got inside, there was another family member sitting there with her husband. And I said to my wife, we have driven 300 kilometers to this noisiness. I adore kids, but I was not in a mood for kids. And there we were. Our meat was too little, so I had to use our meat for everyone that evening.
Yeah.
The guy who came apparently lost his bank card in the taxi, so I had to supply all the booze. And the next morning,
lost his card, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The next morning, the kids wanted to have some cereal, and I thought, well, I'll just go into Roundup and get some jungle oats. No, they don't eat jungle oats. They eat Kellogg's cornflakes. And I had to go and buy it. Aldrin, I said to myself, never, never again. I'm going to make sure where I'm going that everything is sorted. And I see any snotty kids running around, I'll just drive by.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my, my 2 cents.
Okay, let's put it out there to the listeners as well. When it comes to planning festivities and sometimes just people coming together, and we allocate and we say that you are going to buy this, you're going to bring this, and you're going to bring this, and then people don't bring the stuff that they need to bring. But the other part also, just listening to what Flores was saying now, is if we say that we're going to have a gathering, you know, and it is going to be the 6 of us, can it remain the 6 of us? Is it possible for it to remain just the 6 of us? So you don't bring uninvited guests who are now part of whatever we have planned, because remember, we also worked on, for instance, what needs to be bought, how much food is required, or how much water is required, and so forth. So let's put it out to our listeners. Thank you so much, Flores, there from Cape Town, 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. I can already anticipate somebody saying that it is the festive season. So if somebody who's uninvited comes, allow them. What's your take on it?
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
A drop in the fuel price and hot weather pushes up power demand. Good day to you. There's some relief at the pumps this festive season, with both grades of petrol to drop by 65 cents a litre at midnight on Tuesday. The price of diesel will drop by at least R2.35 a litre. Illuminating paraffin will also come down by R2.38 a litre. However, liquefied petroleum gas will rise by R1.67. Mpumelelo Mapalala reports.
According to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, increased oil supply from non-OPEC countries such as the US have recorded higher than expected oil production, coupled with uncertainty from the delayed OPEC Plus meeting and disagreements regarding production levels and a continued slowed economic growth concerns have attributed to price declines. The rand also appreciated against the US dollar during the period under review from 19 rand 16 cents to 18 rand 55 cents.
Eskom says extremely hot weather conditions experienced across the country have driven up power demand, and this has put increased pressure on the grid. The Weather Service says Gauteng and the Northern Cape will experience a heat wave from tomorrow, and that's expected to continue until this coming Tuesday. Eskom spokesperson is Daphne Mokoena.
Whether there is correlation between the high electricity demand and heat wave, the answer is yes. And this is particularly seen around 2 o'clock during the day. With the expected heat wave starting from tomorrow, Eskom has incorporated this into their plans, hence the stages of load shedding that we've just announced. We, however, plead with members of the public to please switch off their pool pumps or use them efficiently, as well as their geysers, so that we can alleviate pressure from the system and keep the load shedding stages as low as possible.
A 19-year-old woman has been arrested for allegedly killing her father outside Giyani in Limpopo. Police spokesperson Khululani Mashaba says the woman allegedly stabbed her father during a domestic violence incident.
According to the information available at this stage,
It is alleged that the deceased had a third night with his wife, and the daughter realized that the mother was assaulted, and she decided to shout, calling upon the community to come forward to assist in stopping the fight amongst the couple. Subsequently, the deceased suddenly attacked the suspect with a knife. The suspect managed to get the knife from the deceased and stabbed him. The deceased was declared dead on the scene of crime by the paramedics.
Judgment on the appointment of the new Chief Financial Officer at the Makado local municipality in Louis Trichardt has been reserved at the Polokwane High Court in Limpopo. The acting CFO, Godfrey Ralipada, is challenging the appointment of the new CFO, arguing that she's been imposed as a result of political interference. Ralipada's lawyer, Yaku Ru, has argued that the municipal council acted irrationally, unfairly and unreasonably when it made the appointment against the interview panel recommendation. Advocate Becken Kugatobi, who's representing the Makado Council, argued that the High Court doesn't have the jurisdiction to hear the matter, as it should be heard at the CCMA or the Labour Court. Michael Makungo has more.
Judge Sidwell Sikwari said he needs time to prepare the judgment. He then reserved the judgment to January next year. In his affidavit, Ralipada stated that he was the preferred candidate during the interviews with a score of 86%. The second candidate scored 69%, while the third scored 45%. He also said the panel recommended him for the position.
The Mpumalanga Health MEC, Sasikani Manzini, has raised concern about the HIV/AIDS infection rate among young girls. She was speaking in Matsulu as the globe marks World AIDS Day today.
As much as we are the second, but what gives us comfort is because 95% of these people, we know them, and what we need to work on is that immediately our communities, that's where we must work together. That if you have tested positive, it's a good thing, go and get treatment, because we treat you immediately, we put you on treatment. So that's where we're working on. And what is good is that we know that Trichardt was one of the highest in the country, but now it has moved.
The top story, both grades of petrol will drop by 65 cents a litre at midnight on Tuesday. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
And welcome to your SAFM Sport. As we have rugby, the Boks return to Loftus as the SA teams return to full strength in the United Rugby Championship. And in tennis, Rafa Nadal confirms a return date to the court. All this and more at around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, the N1 on the run through Midrand towards Joburg stays heavy. It's a breakdown of the Clue interchange, and the traffic is all the way back through to New Road. If you're heading north, there's a fair bit of volume for month end. The N1 up towards Samrand's busy, then through Boerta Avenue up to about the N4 Emila-Flanny split. Once you get past that, it looks okay. And the run north of Pumalani Plaza through to Polokwane is looking okay today. Durban bound out of Pietermaritzburg, the N3 stays heavy with the breakdown at Ashburton. That queue is right back to Market Road. The N3 between Sherwood and Pavilion stays busy on your way out to Pinetown. That's an earlier crash scene near the Pavilion Mall. And Cape Town really heavy. This will surprise you. Normally you get through okay on a Friday on the N1, but not today. We've had a bike crash. A motorbike has crashed and caught fire at the top of Plattercliff Hill, just up by Yipta-Yaga. The traffic's all the way back basically to about sort of Woodstock. You'll notice something wrong, and you're not going to get out of that until you've got past that Yipta-Yaga exit. Also a crash on the N2 out of town on the Muway off-ramp at Khayelitsha. That's enough to push traffic back towards the airport runway. Rob Burton, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Arsenal FC is only interested in rising to the summit.
Oh, what a finish by Zinchenko! Tremendously taken!
Meanwhile, Wolverhampton Wanderers also want a decent position in the top half.
Saka collided into the bottom corner, and Wolves finally lead in the...
Will the Gunners of London keep their fans delighted, or will the Wolves have the final say? This is the Premier League. Catch the spectacular clash between Arsenal AFC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday 2 December at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies invites interested individuals and stakeholders to submit written comments on their SABC bill. The bill seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act of 1999 to regulate the continued existence of the SABC, to provide its governance, to amend the ICASA Act of 2000 and the Electronic Communications Act of 2005. For more information, contact the Portfolio Committee of Communications and Digital Technologies by emailing sabcbill@parliament.gov.za, directed to Hanjiera Sali.
The SABC is making some changes to its trailblazing SABC Plus app. This may result in a temporary pause of services, but this is necessary to pave the way for an exciting new service offering. During this brief hiatus, which should not be more than 48 hours, the SABC will be migrating the SABC Plus service to a new technology system, which will result in the scheduled downtime. SABC Plus assures its viewers that this interruption is temporary and efforts are being made to expedite the transition process. Regular updates will be provided to keep our audience informed about the resumption of the SABC Plus services and the exciting improvements to come. Bonding session. When did you realize that your person at the time was cheating?
Mine, well, I don't know if I can say she cheated on me, but I met this girl. She seemed innocent enough, and I decided, no, let's take it slow. And then we spoke, and then I like you, be my girlfriend. She's like, yes, but let's take our time, and then weeks go by. And then the other time, when we're supposed to spend the night together, I call her on the day that we made a date, the phone not being answered. We call her, the phone was being answered. I get concerned, and tomorrow I call again, and her sister answers her phone, and she's like, no, he's not here, and give me some story. But something smelled fishy, because in my mind, why would you answer somebody else's? And from then, she went ghost up until I had to go to her workplace. And then when I got there, I saw her, and guess what? She was pregnant.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It is 10 minutes after 5 o'clock and it's time for the bonding session. So the topic being sponsored by one of our listeners, Flores from Cape Town. He told us about a meeting that was held to decide on where they will be gathering because it was the festive season, traveled around 300 kilometers, him and his wife, only to, when they get there, find that there are additional people at this gathering who were not supposed to be there or who were not told. They were not told that there are going to be additional people, including children as well. And the food that they had brought was just enough for them and those who were part of the planning committee. And now all of a sudden, there are additional mouths to feed. So your take on it and also your experience around it. I have to say, first of all, I am guilty of it. And I'm guilty of it because I find it weird sometimes, right? Where you get invited to a party, but then you are told to bring your own food. And like, Haibo, I must bring food. It's a party. You're inviting me to a party. The alcohol part I do understand, right? Because sometimes you drink something different that perhaps maybe the host won't be able to serve. But then to also then contribute towards the food, for me, it's a bit of a strange one. But anyway, let's hear what you have to say. 0614-104-107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Let's go to Soweto. Naledi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. How are you doing?
I'm well, Naledi. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. It's a Friday. It's the 1st of December.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, I'm just listening to this guy from Cape Town and them kids not wanting oats. How about oats?
Hey.
I mean, if you don't eat something, bring what you eat. You don't get to come over in my place and then I cook something and then you've got something to say. No, bring your own.
So bring your own groceries.
Yes. If you don't eat, if you are too picky, bring your own. It's the same as when you visit. When somebody cooks for you, wash the dishes.
No!
Yeah, you can't just eat.
I'm never visiting you, Naledi. I'm never visiting you. Me and dishes do not get along at all.
When I cook, believe you me, I will feed you.
Yeah.
And I'm a good cooker, you know. But Aldrin, wash the dishes. You can't just eat and then you throw your dish there. Then you go and sit on your phone.
I'm so sorry, Naledi.
Sure.
Thank you.
No,
Naledi.
and Aldrin, I promise you, I will bake cookies like now. It's my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
I will do everything for you, but don't be a lazy bum.
Please come and drop us. Please come and drop some off, and I'll make sure that the container gets back to you clean.
Yes.
Naledi,
I will definitely do that.
Naledi there from Soweto. Actually, now that she speaks about cleaning the dishes, I've now realized with some of my friends when I invite them over is that they come with their domestic workers, who will then come and assist our domestic worker with the cleaning and the everything and taking care of everything. Which I'm like, okay, I like this. I really like this. Dr. Ntombi is joining us from Polokwane. Good afternoon.
Mina, I'm one person who likes to be alone, irrespective to celebrate in my house. Like now, I'm alone.
Yeah.
I will even spend my New Year alone.
Really? Why?
Yeah, I enjoy it. So my sister, was so different from me. My sister was a woman who
Yeah.
So they bought some boats 2021. Remember, lockdown.
Yeah.
So they bought the Malabo Makilani, Amasai's wife, to going to celebrate the 31st. She called me that night. Unfortunately, one day I would say, "Hey, I'm sick. Unfortunately, after her birthday, January was on.
Yeah, sorry.
Utshwala basala khona lapho ke alile kubapha abangani athi abathenganga.
So was she that strict one? Uthi, you didn't bring alcohol, so you're not going to get anything.
Azange aphume ngoba ubonile ukuthi abathenga ngavele wathi no, I'm no longer going because these people bazongikhuza. Yeah. Unfortunately, but then one other thing that I wanted to raise, abantu banesibindi soku-attend imicimbi bangaphathanga lutho. That is really weird. I have seen it now. It's not long. I went home. There was imicimbi. These people bagezi amasuit bahle. What is that? How do you go there on your now lutho?
Kanti, what is it? It's a party, right? So once we get to
bring your own bottle.
Yeah?
Bring your own bottles.
Okay.
Bring your own, like really. So I'm saying, if we plan, just be and do whatever that you have agreed upon. Thank you,
Dr. Ntombi there from Polokwane. But I think that one is that there's an agreement, right? And the agreement is that we're going to have this party and this is what you should be contributing. And again, as I said earlier on, I find it a bit odd to bring food to a party. It's not something that I'm used to, but now I've been introduced to it as well, where sometimes you have friends who would invite you over to a party and say that, hey, listen, you need to bring, they call it, what's it? Something chop and darp and chop or something chop. You even bring your own meat. You bring your own raw meat. And they will prepare your meat. It's a strange thing for me. But anyway, there are people who actually do that. So the etiquette around hosting or coming to gatherings and what you need to look out for, and also when it comes to the contribution around the food as well as the alcohol. 0614-104107. And you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. When somebody comes who hasn't been invited, what do you do? When a friend brings an additional person whom you didn't expect, can you ask them to kindly turn back because you are disrespecting me? 0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature on Premier, Finance, Cooperative Governance, Human Settlement and Traditional Affairs will conduct public hearings on the Northwest Adjustment Appropriation Bill and Northwest Financial Bill on Unauthorised Expenditure on the 1st of December 2023 at Makgore Community Hall in Makgore, Nakamudiri Mulema District, Mogopa Community Hall in Ventersdorp, Dr. Kenneth Kahunda District, Seking Tribal Hall in Dr. Rupse Gamutsi Mompati District, and Morotele Community Hall in Bojanala District. All public hearings start at 10 o'clock.
EFC is live this Thursday. 3 incredible title fights in one night. The welterweight strap is on the line as Mark Hume takes on Peace Ngopane. And the most dominant featherweight Iga Cabeza faces the only man he has lost to in 6 years, the Pitbull, Ronaldo Exon. Plus, the finishing machine Humphrey King Cobra Malenga takes on Kaleka Kabanda for the vacant lightweight title. EFC 110, watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM.
0614104107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 0002032. So the etiquette when hosting or when you are being hosted, what you need to contribute and what you need to make sure that the guests know or that your host also knows. By the way, it's called a chop and dop. So you bring your own meat. This is now the parties that I've been invited to of late. You bring your own meat and you bring your own alcohol, and they would. So everybody would have everybody would have their own kind of meat, you know. And I prefer this, and it's just for you, and perhaps maybe if you're with your partner, it's just for you and your partner. But as Patrick has pointed out now, why don't you just put money together? You know, why don't you just put money together instead of asking people to bring food stuff, especially food stuff? 0614104107.
Good day, Aldrin, and your listeners. I also don't get it. Why would a person plan a whole party with a budget of the guests?
Thank you.
And mostly are ladies, you know, especially when it comes to baby showers. Someone will tell you that the entrance is a Truworths or Woolworth gift card. What is that? If you don't have money, don't do anything.
But that one, there's an expectation, right? It's a baby shower, so you must bring a gift, I guess. It's a baby shower. You must bring a gift, and the gift comes in the form of a voucher. So I totally understand that. My problem is bringing food, bringing your own food to a party.
Hi, Aldrin, and the listeners. My issue is they say that bring and buy. It's like what the guy says, that you bring your own food, or maybe you organize that someone brings the salads and the other one brings the what, and then you decide to go buy like something cheap or something small, and then when we pack the food and everything, you're expecting to eat our lamb chops and our steaks. I mean, now, that for me is a problem.
And when you probably came with the immense meeting, yeah. And Noni is joining us from Gqeberha. Good afternoon.
Hey, Aldrin. Yeah, well, I've got a similar problem. My friends, especially, we normally meet in December, from high school, and we all have children, so we always decide to contribute together. But you find that some of them, are full of surprises. We contribute equally, and then all of a sudden they bring extra family members and extra children, and I always say to them, because these extra people, we didn't know about them, and they have so many demands. So I've just decided that if it happens again the following year, I don't get involved. But it has happened so many times where they just bring extra people, and these people don't contribute. And it's not like we don't like sharing, but I mean, just tell us in advance if you're gonna have extra people. But they just bring umkambati. It's like we have to umkambati.
Yeah, and sometimes, Shem, Noni, what happens is that the person is perhaps so friendly, the person who's being brought by the other friend, and the person is a vibe.
but I'm like,
the person is a vibe, but then you get this feeling because you're annoyed, right, that they've brought this person who they didn't tell you about, and you almost feel like, oh, this person is becoming over familiar now.
Yeah, that's true.
And then switch her off. Thank you, Noni there from Quebec. Let's go to Dobsonville. Hamilton, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Iris. I have a brother who is an alcoholic. You know what he does? Whenever there is a party, even if he's not invited, whenever he goes to a party, he makes it a point that he carries his own beer. Even if it's a family party, even when we have the function at home, before the function starts, he will go to the tavern, get his beer, and then stay there. Say to me that I don't want to call people who's stingy. I have my own stuff. Even food, he does like that. Doesn't wait for food to be dished. When he feels hungry, he goes and buy, come back and eat.
I've seen that some people also would take like Abo KFC to funerals because of that whole situation as well. That's an interesting one. Thank you so much, Hamilton there from Dobsonville. 0614-104-107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. I also have friends, like they also make sure that they have whatever brand it is of whiskey that they drink, that they always have it. And I've never actually had them ask us for any alcohol. And we've been friends now for more than 5-6 years. Yeah. Always. And there's only one brand. It's only one brand. 0614-104-107.
Hey, Aldrin and the listeners. You know, when I started working, I was working in a town called Akonhoek, and then I was staying in Hoedspruit. So a lot of my colleagues were white. That's when I learned bring and braai and bring your own booze. So whenever they said we have a get together, or even if it's a farewell or anything, you'll buy your braai pack, and then you'll have a braai master. Someone will choose someone, then someone braais. So it became a habit. When you go to a restaurant, even if it's just a little event, it's you pay for whatever it is and a tip on top. So you bring your own booze. It's standard, and then the meat sometimes will contribute money, but most of the time it was you buy your own meat and then bring along. This is justice from Babatin. Thank you very much, and I think that's the decent way of having a get-together or a party. So let's grow so that no more talking too much after the party. Everyone is happy. Thanks.
When I'm not near Aldrin and the team, you invite me to a party, and then you'll tell me to bring my own booze or own food. And if you're mad at me for not coming, I will tell you, Sissy, I did not want to have a party now, or I didn't want to be invited to a party. So for you to want me to show up and still bring my own food, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Princess and Sanson.
I am one of those type of people, by the way. And I was just saying to someone now who sent me a text via WhatsApp, who said that food is expensive. And I was saying that when I'm hosting, I don't ask people to bring their own food. I don't ask people to bring their own alcohol. You perhaps will find that there is alcohol available and there is plenty food, because also my person is a cook. Oh, is a chef now, actually. Sorry, baby. My person is a chef. But then he says it's because you can afford, you know, and like actually, yeah, it is because I can afford. And I wonder, for somebody who cannot afford, do we then say to that person, don't host? Don't ask people to come to your party because you can't afford the alcohol and you can't afford the food to have the people enjoy at your party. Is that the case? 0614-104-107.
Aldrin, how are you? Food is expensive, eh? Food is very, very expensive, especially meat. So I prefer when people bring their own food, their own meat, or rather what we do with my friends, we contribute money and then we know what everybody likes. So we just buy that and we braai and everybody's lekker, you know. Alcohol, everybody brings their own, but as for food, and sometimes you must remember, people come to your house and they don't even clean, and you have to clean after them, and they have left. your food is finished, you don't have money, now you must circle the whole month alone. You can't even go to the house and say, guys, I fed you that other day. It's time for you to feed me. They won't even feel sorry for you. You know, times are tough. People must bring their own money, the food, or they must bring money for us to buy meat. Thank you. John in Bloemfontein.
Good afternoon, Adrian and the listeners. Adrian, I missed your show very much. I'm sending this voice note. I moved to Germany for quite a long time.
Yeah.
The tradition, I've seen it a lot here in Germany since I've started coming 2013. Mostly it's done by people who chose to gather together and have some meat and food. So obviously you have to bring your own stuff because it's not maybe umsebenzi where you are slaughtering for your ancestors. Definitely then the food is there, people must eat. But if we just choose to hang together in that weekend and then bring booze, then bring your own stuff because it's no one's responsibility to feed you. Unkosi, Stuttgart.
Oh, Nkosi there joining us from Germany. Okay, so this one text via WhatsApp says, I once asked my older cousin and his wife from Cape Town to visit me for a weekend in Bloemfontein. Not knowing my cousin bought a car but can't drive. He brought another dude. Hey, Aldrin, this dude could drink beer. Yo, I could eat. And on Monday, my whole groceries were gone. And that is Tediso from Bloemfontein.
Hello, Mr. Sampear. People from Joburg are stingy, man. You know, emakhaya komahayeng, our parents and our grandparents will go all out to make sure that when they host or one of their children hosts, they'll slaughter a sheep or they'll slaughter a goat. They will even make African beer by organizing a KC yabiya, so that when people come there, at least for a starter, batla nom combo tea, then banwe KC yabiya, then bonus batla add wherever they want to add. But you cannot host people and expect them to search from their pocket. That's so rude. That's unfair, man. Otherwise, don't invite people. Eat alone and host yourself. Thank you, Tabi Sompumalang.
0614-104-107, and you can also drop us an X at Aldrin Sampear. It is 5:30. It's time for the news headlines with Greg Host. Good evening.
Thank you, Aldrin, and good evening. President Cyril Ramaphosa says it's of great concern that the Israel-Hamas truce has now ended. Both grades of petrol will drop by 65 cents a litre at midnight on Tuesday, and strike action has been averted at PRASA following a wage agreement reached with labour unions. I'll have a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, the M1 South driving into Joburg remains heavily backed up. We've got a stationary truck at Buccleuch interchange. It's been there for a good few hours already, and the traffic driving into Joburg backs as far as New Road. That's a really heavy queue. Crash at Malabongwe Drive, so heading from Four Ways into Randburg stays busy, and there's been a crash on the N12 and R24 route going into Galulis just after they've merged. And that collision on the N12 west of the Reading interchange still there, so delays coming off the N3 south at Elands, passing Four-Trekker Road and down towards the R59 exit. Also still with us is the stationary truck at Ashburton. If you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, that's a heavy queue of vehicular and truck traffic that extends right back to the Market Road exit. Also another crash near Pavilion Mall on your way out of Durban. The N3 stays busy from Sherwood through 4 Level towards that scene. And 2 major backlogs of traffic heading out of Cape Town. This is unusual for a Friday. Normally Cape Town's done and dusted by this time, but not today. A bike crash, and that bike caught fire at the top of Plattekloof Hill. The N1 queues from Kuburg interchange all the way out to Belleville. And there are 2 crash scenes around Khayelitsha, one before the R300 and one on the off-ramp from the R300 to from the N2 to Meway. So the N2 going out of Cape Town backs from the airport exit into Khayelitsha, and plenty of delays coming inbound. Having a look at that, so queues from Spine Road on the N2 towards the R300. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Welcome to your sport. We'll kick things off with the Bulls boss, Jake White. He's picked 10 Springboks And that's in his starting team for the United Rugby Championship clash against the Sharks at Loftus Versfeld tomorrow, 3 p.m, the kickoff. Now, all of his 3 World Cup winning outside backs, Willie Leroux, Kenan Moody and Kurtley Arendse will start the match, while flanker Marco van Staden will also feature, he featured in France, he will pack down on the side of the scrum. White has thus opted to stick with the midfield pairing of David Kriel and Stedman Gans, while Johan Goosen and Ambrose Paper will serve as the half-back pairing. Now, in the absence of the unavailable Marcel Coetzee and Ruan Nokia, the co-captains Elric Lowe will lead the side. Soccer, Stellenbosch FC coach Steve Barker says they're banking on their maturity to help them end their semi-final curse in the Carling Knockout Cup after enduring pain in previous tournaments. Stellies will play in their 3rd successive semi-final against Richards Bay in Umlazi. That's tomorrow. 3 p.m. is the kickoff, having failed to win the last 2 in the Nedbank Cup and MTN 8.
Yeah, I think it's important just to take our lessons learned. 2 semi-final losses, both, penalties and away goals. So it was difficult to swallow at the time. But I think that those experiences will give us, the knowledge how to approach a 3rd semi-final in a short space of time. So, that's what happens in life. Sometimes you don't overcome certain obstacles, but the important part is to learn from those experiences and make sure that the next opportunity you get, you take it with both hands.
Staying with soccer, Everton filed an appeal today in a bid to overturn the Premier League's decision to deduct 10 points from the club for breaching the competition's financial rules. The deduction was the biggest sporting sanction in the Premier League's 31-year history, dropping Everton into the relegation zone and threatening its 70-year status in the top division. Everton had earlier said that the points deduction was a wholly disproportionate and unjust sporting action, and that the club does not recognise the finding that it failed to act with the utmost in good faith. And finally, Spanish tennis great Rafa Nadal, absent from the courts for almost a year with a hip injury, announced today that he will return to competition in Brisbane next month ahead of the Australian Open. He went to social media saying, "Hello everyone, from a year away from competition, it's time to come back. I will be in Brisbane for the first week of Jan. I'll see you there." Former world number 1 Nadal has not played since his defeat in the second round of the Australian Open last year, a tournament he won in 2009 and 2022. The 37-year-old has undergone surgery twice and having slumped to 663rd in the world after a year without playing, and declared in September that 2024 season was going to be his last. Nadal will try to return to the highest level in Australia with the aim of competing at the French Open, which he has won a record 14 times. That's a wrap of your sport on Beyond the Headlines. Look out for Michael Abramson. He's got Top Sport. That's coming up between 7 and 8.
You know what I'm about to ask, right?
I am too scared. I'm afraid of what I might say.
Okay. The floor is yours.
You know what? A party for me is like braai, beats, some biltong. Very chill, very relaxed. Nothing.
But who brings it?
Me, if I'm hosting it.
If you're hosting, you make sure that everything is there. Is this including the alcohol or is it?
Well, if you have a preference that you really, really like, you bring. But I'll provide. I'll provide.
There'll be something, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it's weird, Someone was telling me about being invited to a wedding and being asked to bring their own chair.
Oh my God! No!
It's such a strange thing, right?
Right?
It's such a weird thing. How do people do this, eh? How do you have a party and then ask people to bring their own, Well, a camp chair I can understand.
It's a wedding.
It will be...
It's a wedding. To bring your own chair. No, I am not dressing up to carry it. No. What kind of party etiquette is that?
Imagine hanging in this beautiful satin gown.
No way.
And you're carrying a chair. I don't know if it's a wooden folding chair or if it's a camp chair.
No, man.
Okay, I get you. Enjoy the weekends, right?
And you? What kind of parties do you host?
No,
I want to gate crash some of your parties.
Shame.
It
When you
sounds
come
very
to
bourgeois.
mine, shame. You just know that everything is sorted out.
Ah.
You're going to find the alky. You're going to find the good food,
Ah.
and you're going to have an incredible time.
Oh, it sounds
We're
like...
really, really good at hosting. My partner and I, we kill that thing. We
And
really
you
do.
always make sure my glass is full.
We always make sure. Well, you need to make sure that your glass is full. The supply would be there.
Okay. Oh, you'll have to scrape me off the floor and take me home.
0614104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032.
Manene namanenekazi.
Dove is not just gentle and moisturizing.
It took great care of the nation
During the Rugby World Cup France 2023. Dove rocks, just like the box.
Danko Unilever for your remarkable contribution to the momentous journey of global heroes.
Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign. This year, be an activist. Play your part. Do not protect abusers. Report them. Hashtag no to GBVF. SAFM leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it is time for a MoneyWeb market update with Jimmy Moya. Jimmy, before you tell us about what's happening on the markets, it's the festive season. So if you host, should I bring my own stuff?
I suppose it's, well, good afternoon, Aldrin. Good afternoon to the listeners. I think it's a courteous thing to do. If I'm hosting and I've covered meats and I've covered drinks, the least you could do is bring a bottle, bring some dash, bring some salads. I'm not saying contribute to everything, but it seems like the South African thing to do, because at the end of the day, we're all going to enjoy it, aren't we? It's for everyone.
But you hosting.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I want you
to
prepare
the dishes
the
afterwards.
entire meal. Like, I want to I enjoyed your salad, I enjoyed your meat, I enjoyed this, and give you feedback. But now I'm bringing my own salad.
No, I'm happy to. I'm happy to cook all of it. I'm happy to have all of that and take care of everything. But then the courteous thing as the guest is to say, you've hosted, you've prepared the lovely meal. Here's a bottle of wine, or here's a bottle of whiskey.
Well, there's somebody who agrees
So you
with
don't
you.
have to contribute, but
Somebody who
just
agrees with you says that if
a
you
ba-
don't bring food, bring a
balance.
gift, token of appreciation,
Yeah, a
bottle of
balance.
wine, chocolate, etc.
Yeah.
So
a
I
nice
know
thing to
next time when you invite me, I know. I'll respect the rules.
No, we're doing Christmas at your house this year, Aldrin.
Well, we still have to decide on that one. We might be traveling. Tell
Where
us
are you
what's coming
traveling
up
to?
on the market.
Well, markets had a good week. Relatively speaking, that is. We closed out the month quite strongly yesterday, and it looks as though to wrap up the week, we are still seeing some signs of positivity. I think overall, I mean, if we look at the top 40, it is sort of flat for the week, but that's not the worst thing considering we've had 2 consecutive weeks of bullish price movement. I'm joined on the line by Wayne McCurry of FNB to take a look at some of the price movements. Good afternoon, Wayne. Thanks so much for the time. When we caught up earlier in the week, we looked at the markets and we couldn't explain why the rand was weakening. Today, the rand showed signs of strength. Was the weakness yesterday just because we were ending November? That's a theory.
Honestly, Aldrin, I honestly don't know. As I said to you earlier on this week, I've spoken to many people as to why the rand's so weak, and no one can give me a plausible answer. And in fact, it could be strengthening because the dollar's weakening, and we are, I think, in the last 2 weeks or so, the third worst performing emerging market currency after 2 truly basket cases that are just about to default on their debt, and we're nowhere near that. So I can't explain it, but as you said quite correctly, the rand is a little bit stronger today at 18.65 against the dollar.
And what's to be made of the top 40? We had a really good last 2 weeks. We closed the month really strongly. What do you make of December? I mean, it's always a shorter month. There's always less trading volumes. Companies are winding down. Asset managers are going on holiday. Do you think we'll see anything significant happen now, or will the whatever repositioning needs to happen towards January?
Look, I think we'll see much the same as what we saw in November, but not to the same extent. November was an extremely strong month, both domestically and overseas. In fact, overseas it was, I think, one of the fourth or fifth biggest November ever, with the market up about 8%. So I think we'll see the market generally drifting upwards, but not to the same extent as what we saw in November. So, I mean, today the market is just about break even. But I suppose, quite importantly, the mining sector, even though it's off its strongest point, was incredibly strong today.
Speaking of mining, Wayne, I think it was October, we did about 7% on gold. We did about 2.8% last month. We are poised to break this $2,050 resistance level and make new highs. Do you think that we have enough momentum to touch 2,100?
Oh, I don't know so much about that, but obviously gold's been running well, and you can see the gold shares over the last month. I think the best performers, followed by the platinum shares. Actually, they were also very, very strong over the month. So Anglo Gold, Anglo Kumba, they were all very, very strong today.
Yeah, Goldfields as well. I'm just off the top of my head, I'm just thinking Goldfields and Harmonies have both run quite a bit of, run quite a lot. And I think if Goldfields in particular from September was at around the 200 Rand level, and now we're back at 300 Rand. So almost an entire 50% gain there in the last quarter of the year. So obviously this positions them quite well going into next year if we are to see maybe some dollar weakness that'll give rise to a bit of gold strength. But we'll leave it at that, Wayne. We'll catch up on these and other movements next week as we wind down the rest of the year. Thanks so much for the time. For those that have been keeping an eye on the markets and haven't necessarily seen what's been happening throughout the day, the Rand did strengthen almost a 4% against the major currencies. Bitcoin is also running. It's above $38,000 a coin now. So we're still seeing if we're going to get to R1 million a Bitcoin before the end of the year. I think there's a couple of weeks. We're in the home stretch there. And then, of course, that all-important Brent crude oil price didn't go above $85. So when we get that fuel cut at the start of this month, hopefully we get another one in January. But we'll catch up with these and other stories next week. We wish the SAFM listeners a pleasant weekend to you, Aldrin, and to the team. And we're going to catch up with everyone on Monday.
And I'll be courteous. I'll bring you a bottle of wine. Thank you, Jimmy.
Here we go.
Jimmy Moya. He's back again on Monday. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. And our studio line is 086-000-2032.
SV Darmstadt and FC Köln are both faced with the same dilemma. They are navigating a path to relocate from the uncomfortable zone. The Lilies want to impress home fans, but the Billygoats believe they can shine away from home. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the glittering clash between SV Darmstadt and FC Köln this Friday, 1 December at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
What would you advise young people? I mean, it's always the case. Young people and alcohol. I mean, it's such a bad mix.
As a Department of Basic Education, we strongly believe in child and youth agency. But we also are very strong believers in imparting knowledge and information and skills on children that will allow them to make safe, healthy choices about their lives. The risks and harm that can come with pens down. It's important that we talk openly about it. They only present the nice side of things, but they don't present the risky, harmful side of things. Parents can be oblivious sometimes to these issues. There's going to be alcohol, there's going to be high risk, sexual risk behavior, even sexual exploitation of children.
Liko Borterman, Director for Social Cohesion in Schools at the Department of Basic Education.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m. The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM.
Let's take your voice notes on 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032. I have to say, from that discussion with Jimmy Moyaha, I need to be courteous. I'll change my ways. I'm just used to like rocking up. Like, hey, you invited me. I'm here. 0614-104-107 and your X at Aldrin Sampear.
Good evening, Aldrin, and good evening to SFM listeners. You know, Aldrin, this thing of us, me hosting you and then saying that you guys need to bring your food, we'll rather say, Bafetu, as the Banseni Mali, and then after we take out money, let's buy some meat and then we eat. Then it becomes so slightly better than for me to say that I feel like I want to host people, but then the people that come to my house must bring their own food. What if it means that people now need to go out of their way to come to your party, even though that's not what they were looking forward for, you see? So, and also it no longer becomes fun because all of us are eating different types of meat, different types of veggies and all that. Where people could have stayed home and cooked those type of stuff and ate by themselves, you see. So if you are hosting, make sure that you become a proper host. Maybe it's the economy. Economy is so bad that people resort to such stuff. But then
Good afternoon, Adrian. Good afternoon to the SFM listeners. Adrian, regarding hosting, it's kind of difficult to host every now and again. But we do host, just that we only do it on very few occasions, but we try our best to supply whatever that is required for that particular event where we've invited people. I think when you host, you really need to try your level best to supply everything that you can. Sewanele from Pretoria.
0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032. This one is a bit of a long one. I'm not going to read all of it, but the point that is being made here is the contributions that are required. In any event, I would like the following simple principles. Ubuntu contribution 20% towards the party. Financial contribution, gift, and bring and come with something, wash dishes, clean, serve guests, cook, make a fire, etc. Anything towards the party will be appreciated as a token of appreciation. Thereafter, can you enjoy 80% of the party? Do just bring your empty tummy, fill up and go. The 20% from each person makes a big difference on the day. Regards, actually, Lucky Madonsena. Do you agree with Lucky? 0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Yeah. Hello, Aldrin. Hello to the listeners. Yo, Aldrin, the topic that you are having today is for me right now. Stressful because we are having a family gathering this December month, the 24, 25, 26 for 3 days. So what is happening? We have organized some t-shirts for the family. So now we have to discuss on what are we going to eat. But now we got stuck because no one that doesn't want to say what are we going to eat. I don't know what is a problem there. Since we just decided to discuss what are we going to eat, everything, our group just got stuck there. The arrangement are not going any further.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Can I remain anonymous, please, from Upington?
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Aldrin and the team there. Yeah, I'm anonymous, man. Hey, this thing of food, man. Food are very expensive, man. I've got another uncle of mine, man, and his wife. When we invited them to the party or to the function, they are bringing those big bowl there. They loot the food and then they put inside the boot, and then people they end up not eating there. People they must start bringing their own food. Thank you, Aldrin.
It totally disgusts me, I have to say. When you invite people and then, because essentially what they're doing is that they're stealing. So they steal the food, they steal the alcohol. Umuntu afihle emotweni or ahamba yofihla ekamereni somewhere. Like, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, Adrian and the team. Yeah, this thing of bring your own food, I don't get it ngempela. Engathi ngiyabona nje sengithatha ukudla la efrijini ngilayisha inyama ngihamba naye. Sengithini ke manje kupartner wami le nyama engako ithatha la efrijini uyisaphi inyama manje?
Ngize party.
Hayi ngeparty kamngani wami. I mean I don't get it. Ngeke ngilunge mina.
We've been to a party once where the company paid for everything. And it was a wonderful party. And some of the staff members and everybody decided they'll do the braaiing of the meat. So everybody got a little sausage and a little sausage, but the rest of the meat somehow disappeared into thin air. So I guess this thing of bringing your own meat is for those guys that come to the party and he eats all the meat, or as much meat as he can, and he'll even take some home with him. And the rest of the people at the party who's there don't get any meat because there's one person that's misbehaving himself and taking all the meat. And yes, you do get those guys that will go out of their way to take all the meat. So bring your own meat. If you want to eat all the meat, bring as much meat as you can eat then. Because why must you eat all the meat that other people don't have meat? When there's a braai and it's for everybody.
I wonder if adults ever get into fights at parties with, yeah, but when you're touching Yameni.
Aldrin, it's Michael here from Gebega. I can feed you at my party, I'll feed you, but I'm not going to make you escape. You're not going to get drunk on my expenses. Thank you, bye.
Thank you. WhatsApp text here. Not only that dude will show up with so little meat and no drink, they will come with empty-handed plus one. None knows anything, and plus one person that no one knows anything about, the awkwardness of it. And this one from Murare from Tafelkop in Limpopo says that cost of living is too high. We all have to contribute to enjoy the party. We've come to the end of our voyage, and Francis, thank you so much for the contribution to the topic, the bonding session topic. Really appreciate it. Hopefully there's a few things that you've learned out of this. And as I've said, that I'm also changing my ways. I'm going to try and be a more courteous person, because also I don't expect you to bring anything. Sure, it seems that there's an expectation that people expect you to bring something when you come over to their party. We've come to the end of our voice. Thank you so much for choosing Flight SFM BTH 3 to 6 with me, Aldrin Sampear. Today we're playing out with Waza Africa. Istokfela lomshini uyakhuluma. Istokfela lomshini uyakhuluma. And our parting shot is from Gordon B. Hinckley, who once said, "In all of living, have much fun and laughter. Life is to be enjoyed, not just endured." And Khatliso is reading our credits this evening.
To the best airline on our airwaves, the BTH team, we'd like to thank you for always delivering the best news, throughout the week. And thank you to Aldrin that is behind the mic, as well as Zai on Sport Desk, and to the production team, Temba, Kanya, Vusani, Patrick, and Lundi. This is Khahliso in Cape Town. Peace.
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
And remember to love each other and lead with compassion. Dotsins, enjoy the rest of your evening and have a beautiful weekend.
Amina ngiyovele etshwaleni kwenze njani amina ngiyovele etshwaleni kwenze njani Bonseleni umuthi onotshwala amina ngiyovele etshwaleni kwenze njani amina ngiyovele etshwaleni kwenze njani ungitshela engulube encane ile bayifaka etshwaleni sengisabathe ngiyabeka utshwala lutho abekeke noma ngithi ngiyabuza abantu abazilutho Wamnandi bia engaba ukhanda ngani wamnandi mqombothi engaba uxova waze wamnandi bia engaba ukhanda ngani wamnandi mqombothi engaba uxova ngani wamnandi bia engaba ukhanda ngani wamnandi mqombothi engaba uxova ngani wamnandi bia engaba ukhanda ngani Wamnandi kombothi engabaqova ngani Kahleni bafowethu yini njalo nje mengizophuza la ekhaya lo mshini uthi nca yini lethi nca lo mshini uyakhuluma madoda yini lethi